Everybody, welcome to the podcast, the Supernal David podcast, season 1, episode 3, part 1. Turn my fan down. Um, this is titled "The Beastmaster: Money, Drugs, Chains on My Chest, Bad Bitches." So theme started off. Does this look good? Okay, yeah, there we go. Let me go this way. Um, Started off. I like to do a movie theme for each episode. I always kind of do that, or a series. And so I came across the movie The Beastmaster from like 1982, which was one of my favorite movies when I was little. And I'm starting to think there's a few like other like 80s movies that I think just a lot of people have not seen. I'm going to be like using a lot of these movies that influenced me as a child, um, and just kind of like movies that I liked when I was little or that I thought were really good. And honestly, I think some of them just stand the test of time, and they're really like, but they're funny too because it takes you into like what it was like being a child of the 80s. So I was born in 77. I'm 48. So, my childhood was like all through the 80s, teens in the 90s. Um, and There's two other movies that popped in my head. One of them popped in my head like a few months ago, and then I was just like, this week it popped in my head again. So there's one that's kind of funny. I think we're gonna do. It's gonna be like, I don't want to say anything. And then there's another one, which is kind of reminds me a little bit of this movie. And actually, when I was looking up this movie, and I had thought about this movie just recently too. I was like, oh yeah, that'd be a good movie. I'm like, I cannot remember what the fucking name of that movie is. And then when I was doing like looking up photos and things for the Beastmaster, I came across just by synchronicity or coincidence that a picture of that other movie. And so now I know that I remember the name of it now. I think there's another one too that's real. So yeah, I think we'll just be using some like childhood themed ones, which it's all like there's all symbology. It's I like to take elements from the movie and tie it into other topics we're going to discuss. So as with this one, if you've ever studied like shamanism or spirit animals or like Native American teachings. There's a lot of things with like cougars, Black Panthers, whatever. Eagles. There's lots of animals that are kind of like main like spirit animals. That's why like when I saw this shirt, I mean it's a puma or whatever, but it's not a cougar, but it's still, I was just going for the aesthetic. And in the movie, so like when I went one time to this like shaman local like shaman event, and we did like connected to our spirit animals and did a meditation with the shaman. It was really cool. And then I used to study with Parashakti, who was really smart about this subject or these subjects, and then also worked with a little bit with and got to know Itzhak Berry, who's a shaman, a legit shaman, and yeah, and so a lot of the times with in shamanism, they're really like connecting to spirit animals a lot. And so one of the ones that would come to me a lot was like eagle or like jaguar. I think when I did the event in Vegas with this random like shaman, and it was like a group of people, and we all like laid down on these mats, and went into this meditation, and it was to like connect with your spirit animal, and I was getting like a black panther cougar, whatever, and and so in the Beastmaster, those are kind of his spirit animals, is the eagle, which is for like sight. And that was like a big theme with like Parashakti, with her Winged Ones collection. Was all based on the spirit animal of the eagle and seeing from like a higher perspective. Um, Even last week, we had the theme of like the song from Lord called Shapeshifter, which in like a lot of Native American teachings, or even with spirit animals, like this is how like the main character in this movie, he would be able to go into like a meditation and like send his eagle off. I mean, this is obviously just like a movie, but I really believe there are like the spirit animals, it's like a real connection. And but obviously in the movie it's kind of like more like, it's a movie. But so he would like tune into first of all, he was like born with this like abnormal connection to animals, and people like noticed it. So that's a little bit of the theme of the background of the main character in the movie. And then so he could ask the eagle to go spy on the bad guys or whatever, and where their location is, or where, because they had kidnapped some of his friends or whatever in the movie. And so he sends off the eagle, and then he can go into like a meditation. And it's cool too because he has this like headband, like this metal like headband, but it has like a little thing that goes up like a third eye. So I thought that was like cool, which I didn't really like remember. And he's hot. I always thought he was hot. In a kind of like 80s porn kind of way. In an 80s gay porn kind of way. I'm just kidding. And but yeah, so yeah, and then he would tune in and the eagle would be like his eyes. I've had a personal experience with like a bird before. It was like a blackbird though before. I don't know if it was a crow or a raven or whatever. I've told this before where I was like passed out in like a hallway. It was when I was going through like a phase of like homelessness many years ago, and like in my 20s, and there was like a bird that started pecking on the window as people were starting to come into the building, because I like snuck in there when it first opened. No one was there. I fell asleep in the back because I was delirious from being up all night. And then I'm like in the hallway, and then as people are coming in to the businesses, like 30 minutes, an hour later, this blackbird started pecking on the glass door where I was, as if he was like waking me up and letting me know that people were coming in the building. And the bird was like pecking on the glass door and looking straight at me, and then would peck again and look straight at me. And I like woke up out of delirium and like, and was like just baffled by the sight of the bird looking at me and doing that from the outside of the door. That was like, that just changed me forever. I never, and I looked at animals very differently after that incident, like especially the subject of spirit animals. And then I remember like learning a lot about spirit, like even Itzhak Berry, I remember, came into our Winged Ones tribal council session once or a few times, and I remember him really like talking about like spirit animals. Yeah, and I've watched other like shows and things where it's like if a certain animal just kind of shows up in your vicinity at a specific time. It can be like if you view a certain animal at a certain time as certain things are going on, it can be a symbolic sign or message from that said spirit animal, and each spirit animal kind of represents different things. You can also do things to like connect with them in meditation and like or in dream state, and see like observe the animal and what the animal's behavior is, or just trying to like commute. I hate when I'm trying to use the camera like a mirror. It makes me feel like backwards. I just jumped in the shower really quick because my hair was tripping. Okay, I got a haircut this week. It needed it. I love it. And I got my ass waxed. My ass, my crack, my booty hole. It's all waxed, smooth. I highly recommend gay men wax that ass. Oh yeah, we're gonna have a little sex session. So we're gonna talk about being like a gay male, and like we're gonna talk about sex. We're gonna talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll in this episode. This episode's gonna be all over the fucking place, okay? So buckle up. We're gonna talk about some like good hygiene, being a gay male. We're gonna talk about anal sex, douching, toys, jock straps, bad bitches, getting fucked. Oh my god. Y'all think I'm joking. That's the funny part. How to douche. See, it comes with two little so when you're douching from spirit animals straight to douching. All right, we'll talk about this later. So here's when you suck the water up. No, excuse me. Yeah. Oh my god. Will this go? So you like suck the water up. So you would take like a thing. This is just an example. This is like hyperpigmentation correcting cream. This is just like, you can buy this soap as well. It has like turmeric and all this shit in it, like organic aloe vera juice, shea butter, almond oil, blah, 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 licorice root, vitamin, whatever's. So this brand, I like this brand, Shaheen Organics. If you're like a gay male, they're great. I think they're out of New York, but they have great product. She's really funny. Like her social media, I think it's a girl. It's like really funny too. And so so they also have the, I guess we'll just go into this because it's already like, I'll go back to spirit animals later. So this is so you would take like an empty, say like a Tupperware, get like a round Tupperware. You're gonna fill. You're not gonna use tap water. So this is for all you gay boys who like to get dick in the ass and like, and you want to make sure you're nice and fresh for your mans. So this is a thing. Never use tap water. Okay, never use tap water when you're douching your ass. So you're gonna get some bottled water. You're gonna get like a Tupperware. Get like a round Tupperware, like this type of shape, but like bigger, with water. Pour the water in it. Then you're gonna go. Well, you're gonna order this. You can order. I'm sure there's other companies that have it, but this is where I get. So Shaheen Organics. It's called Intimate Cleansing Solution. Now it's made for douching, unscented. Now you just put the water in the container, then you do a little spritz of this into the freaking water, okay? And now these ingredients are good for like the male pH in the asshole. So it's gonna like detoxify, it's gonna disinfect, it's gonna clean it out. But also there's another thing you don't want to like, so I over the years I would notice like certain guys will have like the hose like in their shower type douche, which is like a hose they hook it to the shower, and they'll douche, in their shower, bath, whatever the fuck. Um, but I've learned over the years and like watched things about douching and how to like do it the right way. And so you never want to put too much water. You don't want to be like shooting tons of water up your fucking intestines because God knows what's going to come out. Okay. This is just word to the wise. And the way the shape of the, you know, rectal cavity is shaped, there's a point where it kind of like pinches off and there's just like the main bottom canal, which is that's all you have to clean. If you go beyond that, you're gonna have fucking accidents and issues when you're having sex. Also, another thing to do, take a lot of pre, and postbiotics. What is it? Wait. Pre, pro, post, pro, yeah, pre, pro, and postbiotics. You know what? One I've been hearing a lot of good things about lately is called Goli, where they have all three in one gummy. Haven't tried it. I'm going to try that one as well. But the good thing is to do is just to have like a clean. If you're going to be a bottom or be bottoming regularly for your man, you want to be eating a clean diet. You want, have to have like solid, a solid situation going on. The cleaner you eat, the more solid, less like disastrous mess you're gonna have down there when you're going to the bathroom, and you'll be more what they call regular, it's called. That's where it's more like solid. Fiber helps. You don't ever want to take too much fiber. Drinking lots of water is great for you. Eating like clean protein, fruits and vegetables, just like a very clean diet helps with being regular down there. And then, so if you're going to douche, that just adds to making it easier. And then eating like smaller portions, and maybe eating like, I've known people that would just, there was one guy from like this Costa Rica resort where he was very smart, and he was like, I only eat like once a day. And he thinks that people eat too many times in a day, and I kind of agree. And fasting is really good for your like your gut. And the gut is kind of like your gut is kind of like the brain of your entire body, or like health wise. Like if your gut is not healthy, the rest of your body is not going to be healthy. And I've had to do a lot of like repairing of my gut just from like years of like not eating properly and taking antibiotics. And like antibiotics can be really like damaging to your gut, so you always want to replenish the flora in your gut, and the healthy and bad, you want to take care of, get rid of the bad bacteria, and help with the good bacteria through probiotics. Eating like kimchi is like a natural probiotic, or sauerkraut. You can drink the kefir. You can do lots of different things for natural probiotics, or you can take it in pill form, liquid form. There's lots of different ways, gummies. But a lot of people are taking the Goli ones. They're been going viral on TikTok. So now when you're douching, so you fill up this water, you spray your Shaheen Organics. If you want to order, you can find her on Instagram. That's how I did, and I ordered Shaheen Organics. And if you have any other companies you recommend too, throw it in the comments. I would love to try different. But this is going to keep your pH and just everything functioning properly down there. And so you're gonna fill this with water, your Tupperware thing, spritz in here, stir it up, and then now you can do this however you want. Put down a fucking mat, put down a fucking towel, get in the fucking bathtub, but you're going to release into your toilet. You're not going to like release into your shower. Don't do that. So you're gonna, and this is not gonna be like an obnoxious, like overdone process. You just want to kind of get, and you already want to be kind of like ready. So you don't want to be like eating something crazy like Taco Bell before you're about to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, be prepared, like, be on a regular routine, maybe have not eaten for a little while, or if you have, just, like, if you're eating properly, it's never going to be kind of like disastrous. And so, but I think when I like to, like, if I'm going to like bottom, and I'm top or bottom, I'm versatile, so it doesn't matter to me. I can be all bottom, all top. Just when I'm in love, I'm like a pleaser, so it's just, but I love both, and I'm great at both, and whatever. It just depends on my partner. And but I'm insatiable, and I can just take it either way for hours. I have always had like a very high sex drive, and even though I haven't had sex in years and years and years, it doesn't mean that I don't masturbate, because I do have a high sex drive. And so you squeeze it, put it in, suck all the water in, and then you're gonna like bend over, squeeze it in, hold it there for, whatever, 20 seconds, and then you're going to sit on your toilet, release. And then, just do that a few times till you use all the water and solution in this, until it's coming out clear. Okay. That's it. And then you're good to go. And because this is only going to fill the initial entry cavity of the, you don't want it to go into the second cavity. Okay. You want it to just, you're just cleaning out the first cavity, which, the penis will enter. The cock, the dick, whatever you call it, the dildo. So yeah, that's douching 101 from David. Just learning over the years. No one fucking taught me. I had to like have bad experiences, embarrassing situations. But now I'm an expert, obviously. Now also, so I went and got, now we're gonna move on to waxing that ass. For like years ago, I would like try to you'd be in the fucking shower trying to fucking shave my fucking ass, pulling a muscle, trying to contort myself and fucking shave like around my asshole and my crack and my butt cheeks, and then you get fucking ingrown hair and your ass is like irritated and getting a fucking, it's a fucking nightmare. Do not shave your ass. Do not shave your ass crack. Go open your Google. They call Brazil. So a Brazilian is the front and the back. Now, if you want just the back, which I'd say shave your balls. If you know how. You can get your balls waxed too, but you still have to trim. It can't be looking like a forest down there when you go to get waxed. It has to be about like an inch of hair. And for them to like, that's what she was like recommending. And for like, if you're gonna, so like a Brazilian, or for men, a Brazilian, what they call it a lot of times. And so they'll wax your ass cheeks, the strip of your ass, which is your crack, and your asshole. And that's all I got. Now you can also do your scrotum, balls around the bottom base of your penis, cock, whatever. And I hate the word penis. I say cock or dick. And fucking and yeah. So I've never had my balls waxed. I'm not like, but I would trust my girl who did, but I would trim. So yes, that's what she said. She was like, just do like a groom and get it down to about like an inch of hair or whatever, or like about like, you don't want it to be like it, because if it's long and they wax, it'll hurt and it can make you like bleed. Like one time when I was younger, I tried to wax myself. I bought wax from like a Sally's Beauty Supply, and I had a little bit of chest hair, and I waxed the hair where it was long, and it made blood come up where the hair came out. Don't fucking do that. And I don't recommend you waxing yourself. Go to a fucking professional. This girl I goes to voted best in Las Vegas, the salon. It's fucking great. Like the wax is like really warm. They take you in a private room. You just fucking you get on your stomach and lay on this bed and they do your ass cheeks. Now she just spreads the wax. It wasn't too hot. It was just warm. And then she's just and it was like it did not hurt. It's just like just a little bit of like you know what I mean? Just a little bit of but nothing it wasn't painful at all. And anyone could handle that. It was not fucking painful at all. Even the asshole was not painful at all, which are, you know, I just have like a little peach fuzz on my ass cheeks, but I still want it to be like smooth, like a fucking, you know, smooth. And it feels, my ass has never felt better. It's like so smooth, my ass cheeks. And then even my crack, but I had a little bit more hair like near the asshole crack area. And so then you get on your back and you pull your legs back so your asshole's just like fucking up and out there for her to do. And you're holding onto your knees, you're pulling your legs back towards your head, and then she just puts the wax all around your crack and your asshole and just like one or two like one, two or three like little rips and fucking she's done. It was like only took like 10 minutes. It was not very 10 15, no, I'd say about 15 minutes, 15 20 minutes. Not that long. It really did not take that long and it just seemed like it flew by. It was probably around 15 20 minutes, but it felt like 10. It was so quick. And it was inexpensive. It was like for both, for the ass cheeks and the ass crack asshole area, it was only $25. So I'm telling you guys, save yourself headache, razor burn bumps, fucking ingrown hairs, pimples on your fucking ass. Go get it waxed. If you want to get fucked and you want your boyfriend to be all up in that ass, and it to slip and slide right in and out. You know, and just honestly, like, so when I use the restroom, I think it's gross when people just use toilet paper. I think that's disgusting. So I use butt wipes. And then I also didn't like having hair down there. And I was like, I just never felt clean. So I started waxing my ass. And it's just so much cleaner when you like have to go to the restroom to be smooth down there when you're like wiping and use the baby in the not baby wipes, but you know, like the why they sell these like wipes that you can flush at the grocery store. Highly recommend if you guys are still in the fucking, you know, in the dinosaur years of using toilet paper, like don't get your asshole wax and go get some butt wipes from the fucking grocery store and just have like a pleasant like experience, a clean experience. You don't want to be smearing shit around and having fucking bacteria fucking down there, and like especially you don't want your fucking man or fucking girl to be like going down in that fucking area or even near the vicinity if it's a fucking disaster like that. Hell motherfucking no, bitch. Hell no. And so many guys, you know, it's not like they have sex ed for fucking, you know, gay men. So I will be your Dr. Ruth here. Just call me Dr. David. Dr. Douche. And I'm just kidding. And I think more gay men that are like elders need to like share the secrets with the, the other generations coming up in their 20s and 30s. Teach them how to have sex properly. And so I always shave my balls and, you know, and around like the base, like kind of, so I like just like a little patch like above my cock, and I like all around the base of my penis and fucking balls to be shaved smooth. It's easy to do that. It doesn't take that long. you could get that wax. So I might let it go. I think next month I'm going to try the wax down there just so I can let you guys know what I think about it. So it'll have grown in, you know, I just did it this week. So next month I do it every month. So, but I've never done that, but I'm going to do that every month. Or I'm going to try the full Brazilian, I think next month. It's a little bit more, but it's not much. But I could just shave my balls and just do, if I want to pay less or whatever. Like shaving my balls, I've done since I was like young, and I just like it's just it just looks better. It's better for your man when he's like down there. He's not getting like pieces of pubic hair in his teeth. Uh, but yeah, so what was I saying about that? Oh yeah, so shave your balls and like around the base of your penis, and then yeah, and then just get your ass waxed. 25 fucking dollars. You know, I tipped 20%, so it was like a $20 tip. So it was about 48 or something like that, I think it came to. And not bad. Um and so she immediately went out and they have a mirror, and I'm like bending over looking at my fucking hole, and I'm like, oh my god, it's never looked fucking better, bitch. It was just so smooth. My ass cheeks, I was like, oh my god, I love this. Um, we'll never. I can't believe I ever tried to shave my ass when I was younger, and then I just was like, fuck it, you either deal with my hairy ass or you don't. I mean, crack. But then I was like, you know what? Fuck this. No, go get your ass fucking waxed. So I was like, yeah. I'm just I love like to bottom. I love like my ass played with. I love my ass spanked when I'm getting fucked. Um Honestly, like I'm really kinky. I'm just like, and I'm either way, like I can be really into my boyfriend's ass and pleasing his ass, whatever way he likes, and or vice versa. Or I'm like great at topping, I'm great at bottoming, I'm great at being dominant, I'm great at being submissive. It really does. Like when I'm in love with someone and I'm completely attracted to them, I like everything and then some with them. I mean, nothing gross. Like obviously I'm not into gross things. I'm not into like, anything like disgusting, but I am kinky and a little bit freaky, I would say. And yeah, I'm not a spitter. I'm like I will swallow. I'm not fucking like if I'm into my fucking in love with my man, like I get turned on by fucking them coming in my mouth or on my face or on my body or like anything like that. I'm not like weird about. But that's only with like, if it's my boyfriend and we're like in a committed relationship. I don't hook up anymore, and I haven't had sex in many, many, many years. Um, but I do talk about sex a lot, and I like to make jokes about it and discuss sex. I think sex should be discussed more. Remember that song by Salt and Pepper? Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you. I think sex has not been talked about enough. Oh yeah, and here's the other extension. So this is kind of like hard, this one. So this is when you're sucking the water into. Or wait, maybe you're sucking the water in with this one. I forget which one you do. I've never used this, okay? So I haven't had sex in years. And so one of them you suck the water in. I don't think this would go in your ass because this is it's how it's like soft and bendy and squishy so it doesn't hurt your asshole. So it's this one, and this goes deeper, so it's getting the water deeper, and it has like a little hole on the side too. So it has like double, it's getting water out the side and straight up. So yeah, so you suck the water in, you fill it up, pull that out. Oops. What is with this? Huh? What? I'm confused. No way. What? How come this isn't fitting in here easily? Oh, yeah, it does. Okay. So you just got to jam it in there, okay? And so then this one would go up your asshole. Oh, yes. So I also recommend, this is fun, cock rings during sex. I don't know, just came with different sizes. They have metal ones, rubber ones, really hot. I'm just into like wearing kinky shit in bed. Like I love jock straps. This one's really hot. It says, see, it says master. It has a, see the front where it has like I like sexy under. I have a total underwear fetish, or like jock strap fetish, or G string thong. Love fucking underwear like that. So your cock and balls would come out the front, and then on the back it has the strap for your like ass, and it's kind of like sheer. It's hot when somebody's fucking you and they're like holding the strap on the back or snapping it, smacking your ass. There's another one that's kind of like that says fucker. It's red and black. Um, and then also, she sells these as well from the Shaheen Organics. So this is like an African net scrubber, which it will like, it'll exfoliate your ass as well. So this is great for exfoliation in the shower. You can use it on your ass. It's going to get rid of any sort of like debris. You can order these African nets from Shaheen Organics as well. So this is just good hygiene. If you want to have like a good sex life and you want your boyfriend to be like turned on and not grossed out, like highly recommend. I mean, and like with my boyfriend, I'm not like gross. If there's like an accident, like when I'm into someone and it's like, I'm not squeamish about shit like that. If oops, there's a fucking accident, big deal. You go in the fucking shower, wash off, like freshen up. You know, it's like I don't ever want my boyfriend to feel like awkward or afraid to like experiment or like, you know, feel like, oh, if there's an accident down there or something uncomfortable, embarrassing with like any sort of like messiness, like it's part of the body, but you know, like it's not, I've experienced things like that before and I don't get embarrassed by it. The other guys act over dramatic about shit like that, but that's because they're pussy bitches, but whatever. Don't be fucking gay then. Go fuck a vagina then. But yeah, and then with like oral sex, like I'm very clean too. Like I believe like in hygienic, like so if you're gonna be like sucking your man's dick and then they're gonna fuck you, especially if you're not using like a condom, which I always recommend safe sex. You know, whatever you choose with your partner is fine as long as you're consensual and you know explaining you know everything, agreeing to everything between each other, that's fine. But I'm saying for just hygienic purposes, you know, a thing that's not hygienic is to say you get fucked and then you suck. So say your man's fucking you and then he pulls out and like doesn't, you know, he's not wearing a condom and then you suck his dick. Like that's nasty and it's like not hygienic and there's like bacteria that you can get like in your throat and shit like that. So it's just kind of like if you do your oral sex first and then if you're going to start fucking, then fuck and then end there. Just there's certain things that I don't think a lot of gay men acknowledge and you just have to like learn throughout educating yourself or like or having like weird experiences. Or just leave it at that. Oh my god. But yeah, they should have like somebody should create some sort of like gay sex ed for people like 21 and over. Where you can send your boyfriend to fucking learn how to fucking do all the do's and don'ts. Now, also, this is great. So wait, there's this one brand that sells like an electric shaver. What was it? So the one they used to sell at Target, this Manscaped, that shit is bullshit. They were almost advertising it as an electric shaver that you could shave your balls in the fucking shower. They're fucking liars. It will nick you. Do not use Manscaped. Okay, what's his face? Who was like Ariana Grande's ex, who supposedly had like the 10-inch penis. What was his name? He's a comedian on SNL. I forget his name. Pete something. Anyways. Pete Davidson. I think he was doing the ads for Manscaped, but I bought the Manscaped thing and it will nick you. And thank God I didn't put it on my fucking ball sack. And fucking I did like a different area and it like nicked me and I was like, oh fuck this. Now there's a brand called Meridian that's great and you can shave in the shower straight on your fucking balls anywhere around your dick and you don't have to use it because it is a little bit annoying. Like when I shave my balls I use like a Mach 3 Gillette Mach 3. Okay, I don't ever cut myself, but I'm very, you kind of have to like, pull your balls and like tighten them and like shave, so it's a little bit, you have to figure it out when you're like doing it for the first couple times, and it can be a little bit nerve-wracking with like water and like a razor, but I've never really like, especially with the like nice Gillette Mach 3, like I've never cut myself. And but so let's look up this Meridian shaver. I think it was on Instagram. I haven't ordered it, but I've been wanting to order their one. Meridian shave. Fuck, I can't remember the fucking name. Let me Google it and see if it comes up. How do you spell Meridian? Meridian. Oh, IAN. Shaver. Yeah, here. Meridian Grooming. Okay. Groom your down there hair. See, GQL, Harper's Bazaar, Forbes, grooming that's made just for you. So this is what you want. Meridian. Stay cool, stay smooth, stay ready. See, Allure, GQL, Harper's Bazaar. So ladies, gentlemen, you want to groom your downstairs area with an electric shaver that's not going to nick your private parts. This is the brand. They have an Instagram. I forget what their Instagram handle is, but you can just go to Meridian Grooming. So it's meridiangrooming.com, MERIDIAN, grooming, GROOMING.com. See, new, small, mighty, built for precision, a powerful no-fuzz trimmer made for precise pubic and body grooming, lightweight, smooth, and built with customizable lengths for the perfect trim every time. See the slimmer trimmer? This is what it looks like. You can take them in the shower. Not bad. $40. The Slimmer Trimmer's compact flat blade delivers high power, irritation free grooming for bikini and pubic areas and hard to reach spots. The Slimmer Trimmer with replaceable ceramic blade, 2 adjustable guide combs, cleaning brush, USB-C charger. The Trimmer Premium. This is the one Allure recommends. They have a new one, a Precision Kit. So you get more blades and whatever. See, this one comes with like scrubs and wipes and serums. I don't know what the fuck. Slimmer trimmer with a replaceable ceramic braid, cleaning brush, the scrub, the pads, the cooler. That's $91 if you get that whole package. You get the shaver and all those products. But that's cool. What is the multi-zone? So this is called multi-zone groom kit. So there are two of them. So I don't know if one is for like your pubic area and then one's for your balls or your like the JJ area. Um, two trimmers, zero lights. The slimmer trimmer is built for bikini and pubic area grooming, while the trimmer premium handles all over body grooming with ease. So see, that's the one where you would want for like your balls. You don't want to be like nicking your balls with a fucking razor. The slimmer trimmer with whatever. Okay. All right, we get it. Yeah, and that other one too, it's like you can use it all over your body. See, it shows people using it on their chest, their armpits, their abs. Show it again. Show it again. Hello. All right, whatever. You get the point. All right, so that moves us on from the topic of sex, douching, shaving, cleansing, prepping the private areas for a wonderful sexual experience. Now you can even go to those places too. So say certain areas of your body, like your armpits, your asshole areas, like a little, you wanted to be a little bit lightened. Now they sell these soaps that are going viral on TikTok right now, where it's like turmeric and all this koji whatever fucking shit soaps. It's like an orange soap. I had that in a body wash as well, and they have this hyperpigmentation correcting cream. This is just to lighten, like, say your ass crack area. You can even go when you get your ass waxed, and they will lighten your like asshole area, because the skin can be a little bit darker or like around that area sometimes. So if you want to lighten it, you can lighten those areas. It's really cool, modern thing as well. Make it photogenic if you're doing I've never done OnlyFans, but a lot of you go on on any gay dating apps and you'll see half of the gay community, half of the men are on OnlyFans, creating content. So if you want that picture perfect pink asshole, you can lighten your asshole. My waxing place does that too. Yeah, and cock rings it looks hot. It's just, I don't know. It's like cock jewelry. All right. So yeah, so in the Beastmaster as well, the movie. So I finished the movie. It's funny. It's like cheesy, but it's good. And so there's like this one. Well, let me say on that subject first was that so I at first I was calling the episode the like beginning title when I was just gestating on the entire like idea was the Beastmaster, the power of God, because there was one of the posters said something about him having the power of God and his connection with animals. And that's what I believe about spirit animals, is that it is a connection through spirit. It's a connection to God through animals. That's what I believe, like the connection between spirit animals is. It's really a connection between you and the creator being channeled through animals. And that's what he had. He had a gift from God to be able to do that. When I had that bird wake me up, I knew it was God channeling a message to me through a bird. And so that's what I'm saying. That's where that was kind of like the theme of like why I was using that title. Then I wanted to discuss just like some topics that were like, so I love that new Slater song, Beat Up Chanel's. I thought it just went with the whole like theme of like when it was saying like the lyrics are what is it? Drugs, money, bitches, fucking la 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 la. So the Beastmaster, it was also symbolic of me saying all the things I've been through in my life have taught me how to like master the internal beast and the external beast. So I thought this was a good symbolic thing of like representing kind of like a spiritual warrior, somebody who has like God given gifts, but has like experience and lived through like the dark night of the soul, maybe multiple times, who's been through hell and back and has, which I can absolutely relate to, has like experience. You know, like the quote from Madonna's Material Girl, experience has made me rich and now they're after me. Um, Experience goes a long way. It cannot be replicated or duplicated. You either know or you don't through experience. Someone, you know, in their 20s is not going to know some of the things maybe sometimes somebody in their um 50 40s or 50s is going to know through experience in this lifetime. I'm not saying people can't have old souls or skills from past lives, but we're just talking about general being in your 20s, being in your 30s, being in your 40s, being in your 50s. Once you get to your 40s and 50s, you'll look back on your 20s and 30s and be like, wow, I was a really like ignorant punk at that age. I did a lot of stupid fucking things, you know, whatever. You're going to look back and you're going to see that. And trust me, oh my God, like night and day, how I was in my 20s to how I am now. It's like, who the fuck was that? Like, really, just like unfucking real. And that's why it's like, I have compassion. I was just recently kind of like getting to know a guy and developed feelings for him in his 20s. And he's a great guy. I don't want any shade thrown on him whatsoever. I fell in love with him. We were just getting to know each other for 2 months and my feelings got carried away. He hurt my feelings, but um, it was my fault that I was reactive. And I apologize to him for that. Of course, is he not great at communicating? Do I understand his whole life story or what's going on? No, he lives long distance. We were making a connection, but there was like a lack of communication when it came to certain topics or subjects that were just kind of like red flags for me. I kind of did it to myself because and I didn't intentionally do it because this is how I am. It's not like I control my feelings and be like, I'm going to fall in love with somebody. It just happens to me sometimes where I will be getting to know somebody that I like and there's like a mutual attraction. And a few months go by and boom, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm fucking like in love with them. And then if it doesn't work out, you realize you love them because you feel miserable. And I was really down in the dumps all week. And I snapped at him. I was, at first it was kind of like a little bit of public communication in between our videos back and forth. And it started off romantic like that. And then we would communicate in our DMs. And I'm not going to get too much into anything about him, but I just wanted to show respect to the situation and be like, I love him. I have respect for him. I already apologized and I know he feels bad. I think the way he wasn't able to maybe like be strong enough to communicate for whatever reason. I don't fully understand it right now. Maybe one day he'll let me know why when he's in a position to do so. But I think maybe he was in like a position that he wasn't able to share with me, and that if he knew that I think there was a part, and he admitted to like, you know, I think he liked the attention he was getting from me and had feelings as well. But I think he was in a situation where he's young and I don't know if he has some other situation going on. I just sensed that there was something that he was not wanting to let me know or tell me, or he was keeping certain aspects of his life private, and it just made me feel like nervous to trust him. I just got like red flag energy, like, okay, don't get hung up on this guy because you don't, he's not giving, he's not putting everything out on the fucking table like I am for him. So it doesn't mean he's a bad person. He's in his 20s. I don't know everything about him. And so I was kind of embarrassed that I had such an emotional reaction. And I got angry at him and I blocked him and I kind of like popped off and was just like, he's leading me on and all that. And even though if he was not being considerate of my feelings, which he was not, and he knew how I felt about him, so that's why I felt he was leading me on. But I don't want to like punish him. I don't want anyone else to judge him for that. It is what it is what it is. It hurt my feelings. We had, this kind of like I had an emotional reaction because I did let myself kind of start to fall for him. But then right when I was getting all these feelings of like falling for him, that's when I started to put the pressure on him to communicate better with me. And then when he was resistant, he would still communicate in the videos, but not on certain subjects directly with me. And I felt he was like avoiding certain topics. And so I was like, I just sensed something was like off. And I'm like, look, if you want to be with me, you have to communicate with me on a certain level and make me a priority above anyone else. I'm sorry, that's how I am. It doesn't mean that you don't include your family and things are explained, your relationship with your family to me. But I'm saying when it comes to like when I'm with a guy and they're my soulmate or we're in a relationship, they come number one. Doesn't mean that I won't, incorporate them in my family dynamic or explain my family dynamic or whatever. I think that's just part of the process of like, being with someone is that you love the people that they love, or if they have issues with their family members, you discuss that and you create boundaries, whatever. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, he's a good guy. He's a spiritual guy. He's young. He's learning. I forgive him. I still care about him. We're not together. I'm not. We don't have any, I'm single. He's single. He can do whatever he wants. I can do whatever I want. I ended it from being any sort of like thing that what I was starting to think it was like going in a direction of like, okay, in the next year we'll make advances to kind of like be together. We're going to work on things throughout this year. This was kind of like the discussion I was having with him, and he seemed receptive to everything I was saying. But then there was just this privacy thing going on with him, and when I would ask certain questions and avoidance, that just made me like nervous to get my heart broken. And so I was like, you know what? I kind of self sabotaged it, even and because I knew I was getting strong feelings for him. I'm highly attracted to him. I felt there was soulmate synchronicities, but there was also something to him that I felt was just like immature or just young. He's 24, I'm 48. And like our birthdays were like 8 days apart. He's exactly half my age. There was like a lot of synchronicities, a lot of psychic energy between us. And then we would be communicating back and forth. I would make a video about certain subjects, then he would make a video about responding to what I said in mine. And we were going back and forth like that for 2 months. And it was really romantic. And he would give me great advice and I would give him great advice. And there was like tons of flirtation and so it was beautiful, but I feel like I don't know, like I was just either sensing he has something going on with someone else. I don't know if it was that or just the mystery of not knowing who he spends time with, and it felt very like I felt like he was very concealed about who he spends time with, or if he's like completely not having sex. Is he having sex? Is he seeing someone? Is there someone from his past that he's still involved with? Like, I just didn't know. I just felt like I was getting this psychic feeling that something was going on that he didn't want to tell me. And that's why I just ended it, because I'm like, okay, if you can't even communicate and just let me, and like it would have been different, and I probably would have responded different had he just been open and honest, but something was making him not, and I didn't know. Maybe I don't know if he has a secret girlfriend who checks his phone. I don't fucking know. I don't know shit. I only know what he lets me know. And so something fell off. And so I ended it. And then, I had an emotional reaction. Then he was upset. And then he got a little aggressive with his words. And then it was ugly for like a day or two. Then I apologized. And I could see he was remorseful. And like, it was just not good on both of our ends. And I think it came from us both having genuine, like, strong feelings for each other, and then realizing, okay, this is not going to work out. And even if it were to be able to, it's not going to work out right now, maybe like in the future. But right now, to try to just like be together, I could have done that long distance had he been completely committed and honest and more like engaged with me, but he wasn't willing to do that. So I was like, okay, there's no way I'm going to sit around and develop feelings and wait around for somebody for a fucking year once their lease is up, if I feel like and I am a little bit like, this is how I am in a relationship, take it or leave it. I'm protective over the person I love. And if they're putting themselves in situations that I don't feel are like safe or responsible, or they're putting me or my family in any uncomfortable situations, like I will kind of just like pull away. And so I think because he's younger, I'm just like, I don't fully know what he does with his time all the time. And a couple times he would say little things that he was doing, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be like triggered by him. Like, I like to have discussions when I'm in a relationship, and like, and I'm not like controlling or anything, but and I don't want a controlling boyfriend, but I also think there's certain communication and boundaries that you have. There's just certain things you just don't do, or situations you don't put yourself in, even though you want to have this like independent sort of attitude, like, I'm an adult, I can do whatever I want, you don't control me. Still, you want to not put yourself in situations that are going to make your partner feel like insecure or vulnerable or unsafe. And so that was the thing where I just felt like, okay, I need a little bit more like when I'm with a boyfriend, like, you want to know where they're going, what they're doing, who they're going to spend times with. I'm even like that with my family. When my mother goes somewhere, I make her check in with me. I know where she's going. I know who she's with. I know their fucking number. I am that way with my loved ones in general. When I go somewhere, I let my boyfriend or my mother, or like a family member know where I'm going, when I'm going to be back, what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, just for safety purposes, or just out of like respect for the people that are like in your immediate family. And so I do that with my boyfriends as well. You know what I mean? So if they're being like secretive and doing shit and not letting me know, or putting themselves in situations where I feel like something could happen to them, um, I don't like to feel worried. And so that's why, it is what it is. Um, you know, he, and I didn't want him. And so I realized after the first day of me having like a fucking little meltdown, I think that was probably the side of me that was self-sabotaging, because I knew I was falling in love with him, and I was just trying to almost hurt myself to just get over it. And so I like sabotaged it and just ended it. And I was like, in an abrupt sort of like aggressive manner, which I'm not proud of. I was embarrassed of. I apologized to him for that, and I know I hurt his feelings. But I think he understand he was hurting my feelings too, and that he took accountability for that, and he was being selfish, and I forgave him for that. And just, it is what it is. Like, I care about him. I don't want to be upset at him. I don't want him to feel sad. And I feel like he felt sad after that, and I was sad, and it's just been a sad week, and I kind of just peeked in on how he was doing, and I could tell he was not. He seemed down in the dumps, and he knows I am too. And I think that just roots from us. We do care about each other, and neither one of us are perfect, and we understand that neither one of us are perfect, and that was fine. And that's why we're able to just be like forgiving about it. And he's honestly like a beautiful person and a beautiful soul. Does he have things to learn? We all fucking do. Yes. He's not perfect by any means. But I don't want to like judge him or make him feel like crap. And I'm not with him, and I don't even want to put that pressure on him. And I don't want any pressure put on me when it's not like in a balanced sort of like I definitely have expectation, like I have no, what's the word, like boundaries or like requirement boundaries. If you want to be with me, like you have to be kind of like, what's the word, like come correct. Like it has to be like there's certain things I will not put up with. And I trust me, I've put up with shit for like 30 fucking years from men and their games. So I am well versed on the games men play. And I have a bullshit detector like you would not believe. And I do not, and I have self love and self respect and self, preservation in ways that I didn't have back then, where I will not accept or condone certain things or behaviors. And so that's a good thing. If you're serious about being in a real healthy relationship with someone, like me, like I'm your fucking guy. Like you're gonna have the best sex of your life. You're gonna be having like getting massaged all the time. You're gonna be in fucking heaven. You're gonna be eating good. You're gonna be balanced, spiritual, doing fun things, like in a state of abundance. I'm like a like when I'm in love, I'm at my fucking best. When I'm in love and I'm in a healthy relationship, it just makes my creative, and not to be dependent on things like that. And that was something that was bothering me this week, that I really let this sort of like kerfuffle, kerfuffle, just getting this sort of like, you know, sad scenario really impact how I felt around my family, how I felt around my baby puppy, how I felt around my mother. I was just in a state of like sadness all week. I could like felt like I lost my mojo. I was not inspired. I was very like either angry, irritable, sad, tired, drained. I was just not myself. And I was like, oh great, I'm having all this like successful shit. We're in the month of Leo, the Lion Gate portal. Like, there's a lot of manifestations coming about for me. The podcast is doing well. I'm like, a lot of people are like interested in it. I was like, this is not the time for me to be like down in the fucking dumps. This is time for me to shine and, like do what I do and show up and be on time and be well prepared. And I have a lot going on with my finances, transitioning into like new work, bills coming up, and financial transitions going on, where I'm just like, I do not have the luxury to be down in the dumps or unmotivated or unproductive. So that's why I was kind of like put up the boundaries this week, like my protective boundaries, because I had to. I was like, okay, I can't get sucked into this. No matter how much I love or care about him, I really have to put up these boundaries right now for my own mental and emotional health. And for him, I think he needed to do the same thing, because we were both just being too influenced by each other emotionally. And so yeah, and I was like, okay, you got to pull yourself out of this. And it has been hard. Like even before I started the episode today, I was in such a heavy energy before I started this. I felt no energy, like listless, just like, and on top of it, I've been like dieting the past week and a half. I haven't had any bread or snacks, like to like a very like minimum. I've only been having wraps, just like everything's just been wraps. Um, Tortillas, no bread. And so, it's working well for me. And, and I've just been eating smaller portions, doing more fluids. So I'm just really getting my body fit right now. I'm going back to the gym. But this week and a half, I was like in the dumps and didn't work out and was just like in a funk. And so I have a lot going on. I'm doing some interviews this week. I'm going to the gym. I'm working on the podcast. I'm, going to be connecting to the Lionsgate portal on the 8th. I'm just really staying focused on getting enough rest and letting spirit guide me and be on point with that and show up vibrationally balanced. That's been the hardest thing all week, is just to get myself back in vibrational balance, because I was so off. Just like, it was like weird, like this heavy fucking sadness just completely over me, or frustration and anger. And I know it's part of, it's part of the energy of this week. So this is what I was going to discuss as well. So in Kabbalah, there's a thing called the ninth of Av, which happened the other day. And it was, it's considered one of the most negative days of the entire year. Here, I'll discuss a little about it. And it's a Kabbalah connection that you do, that I used to do with the Kabbalah Center. I bet I still like connect to the consciousness. I don't really do the fasting and all that. Hold on, the ninth of Av. So this year it was August 2nd, sunset to August 3rd. So that was Saturday, August 2nd. It's just last Saturday. We're only on Monday, so it was just over the weekend. So Saturday, August 2nd, 2025 to Sunday, August 3rd, 2025. Now it's like so this is what it says about it. Tisha B'Av, the ninth of Av, is an annual fast day in Judaism. It is a commemoration of a number of disasters in Jewish history, primarily to the destruction of both Solomon's temples that it refers to in the Bible by the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and the Second Temple by the Roman Empire in Jerusalem. There's other calamities that have happened throughout history on this date that makes it very strange. They say there's something energetically about that day, because the holy temples were destroyed on those days, that like just recycles throughout history. And so on that day, if you study Kabbalah or Judaism, this is what we would used to do. They would read like this portion about Jeremiah. They would read that. There's other different portions that they recommend like reading, like it says right here. And then you would fast all like that evening to the next evening. We would like not wear, you would shower like before, but then you would not eat, you would not put on lotion, any products. You would sleep on the floor, you would sit on the floor, sit on a pillow, sleep all night, like not brush your teeth, not shower the next day, all the way till the next day. And you're fasting from food and water as well. So it's pretty intense, and it's like not the easiest thing to like do. So here's some of the other texts that they'll use. Observances of the day include 5 prohibitions, most notable of which is a 25-hour fast. The Book of Lamentations, which mourns the destruction of Jerusalem, is read in the synagogue, following by the recitation of keynote liturgical dirges that lament the loss of the temples in Jerusalem. Yeah, and see, there's other things like the Holocaust that landed like there's all these different like tragic events that happened around that day. Also, interestingly enough, is that Karen Berg, the head of the Kabbalah Center, who created the Kabbalah Center all over the world. I mean, it existed in the sense of like not a like brick and mortar sort of like synagogue, or it's not even a synagogue. They would call it. It's like would be like the Kabbalah Center would be like a bookstore with offices, a war room, which is like a prayer room where you would have like Shabbats or events or classes, and then like a kitchen, so they would have like Shabbat meals and stuff. Or so that's kind of like it was. It wasn't really considered a synagogue, but the prayer area where they would have the Torah and the events or Shabbat, that was usually called the war room. Um, and and my point is that so Karen Berg, they created those Kabbalah centers all over the freaking world, her and her husband Rav Berg. And before that, it was just kind of like books being transferred and knowledge being transferred from teacher to teacher in small group studies. Okay. And then they turned it into like, like a company with like different Kabbalah centers all over the world, and with their mission. And and so Karen Berg died actually on the 9th of Av. And so I have a couple of her books. And so she had a book called about reincarnation. Now I studied from her for over 20 years. It was kind of like, she was like, she was like great at kind of like opening doors for women in that field of Kabbalah and Judaism, or just in being a successful like spiritual foundation in the world. They got a lot of notoriety and fame. um I had my own issues with them. I do not always agree with everything that they thought or did, and vice versa. I'm sure they would feel the same way about me. And I'm a gay male who was very different, and I'm from America. She was very different than her husband as well, though. He was more orthodox and religious, and she was more like, like a psychic medium, and just like she was just more like down to earth and like into lots of different spiritual beliefs. And so they had that interesting dynamic, that I think they enhanced each other. And so they have this other book. So this book she did is called To Be Continued: Reincarnation and the Purpose of Our Lives. Then she has this book, which I've never fully finished, and I want to finish this book. I'm going to reread it, but I thought we'd connect to her energy. We're going to connect to two people's energy today. Sometimes you just let spirit take the reins. So Karen Berger, it's her death anniversary, just Saturday and Sunday. So they say the person's soul on their death anniversary is more in the physical world than any other point throughout the year. So you can connect with them in spirit on their death anniversary more than any other time. So we're going to just like read maybe like a little part out of this book. Just to connect to her energy. And then also Tori Amos. She's one of my favorite. She's like, piano player, singer, songwriter that I've been into since I was like a teenager, like literal since high school. And I remember ditching school and going to buy her Under the Pink, her second sophomore album, at the warehouse on across from UNLV and Maryland Parkway. I remember like ditching school just to go get her album. This is her book Resistance, which I fully have not finished either. Which I want to finish, but her dad. So she was I have a huge connection with her as an artist, and she's influenced me more than most people in my lifetime. And I've only met her like once, and just like backstage at a concert, or like outside by her bus, and she came out and like said hello to, like, shook everyone's hand or signed stuff. And but I have like a spiritual connection with her, whether she's completely fully aware of it or not. I'm very aware of it, and it's interesting because she has a book, her first book called Peace to Peace. You know, she has this dream, and she says there's this dark and light guy named David who comes to me in my dreams. And she's like, he's a mix of dark and light and blah, blah, blah. Well, when I first read that book, I knew it was talking about me. I knew my spirit was projecting to her because when I was like a teenager and growing up and listening to all her music, I used it like ceremony. Like I would do my prayers and my altar, and I would be like singing all her my Tori Amos songs. You could ask my brother and vouch he'd be in the room next to me, having me to hear me belt out Tori Amos and be doing all my witchy fucking prayer, whatever, like stuff. And I had like such an intense like connection to her at those ages, especially, and I could see how my spirit would project to her in dream state to a point where she would actually write it into a book and not know that I was actually like a physical person in the world at the same time as her. So that was like an interesting thing. If you ever want to read her book Piece by Piece, you'll get to a point where it talks about this David that comes to her in her dreams. And so her father was a Christian pastor, but he was a very open-minded one, and he took shit and heat in his career because then when she was trying to have like she was like a piano prodigy, and so he started to get her gigs when she was a teenager in gay bars, and he got a lot of judgment for allowing his daughter to play in these piano bars or these gay piano bars, and he just wouldn't judge them, and so he's like a really great guy. Well, he just passed away, and she just announced yesterday that her dad had died, and her mother died a few years back, and Tori's so close with her parents. It's in her music. You hear her talking about it in her books and her interviews, how much she loved her mother and her father. And she was like, her mother died years ago when her album The Beekeeper came out. There's like this devastating song, I think, called The Beekeeper about her mother, or Ribbons Undone, which is about her mother and her daughter being born and her mother leaving the world. And it's like that's one of my favorite albums of hers, is The Beekeeper. But yeah, I just wanted to read a little snippet out of like sending prayers to Tori Amos right now because she's mourning the loss of her dad, who was a preacher, and then we'll connect to Karen Berg as well. So I'm just going to randomly pick a spot. We're just connecting to their energy, showing respect and love, and let's look at that. Hold on, let me look at the chapters and see what jumps out towards me. Does she have the chapter? All right, let's start here. Bringing Kabbalah to the masses, which is like towards the end of the book. 207. And there's her husband, Rav Berg. Now, I believe she was from New York. I think Rav might have been from New York as well, but they would move back and forth from like Israel to New York, I believe. Anyways, we'll have a little snippet. Bringing Kabbalah, chapter 9, bringing Kabbalah to the masses. The next 2 decades were extraordinarily eventful for the Rav, me, and the center. After being blocked at every turn for years, the light of Kabbalah was breaking through. The center was no longer growing in a linear way, event by event. With his boundless energy, the Rav was moving things forward in many different directions and levels simultaneously. As our teachers fanned out around the globe and people started becoming aware of Kabbalistic wisdom, their enthusiasm became palpable. You could literally feel it. In addition to this, is Karen Berg writing this, so this is his wife, um, whose death anniversary was just over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. In addition to his myriad other duties, the Rav now spent countless hours on the phone, basically around the clock, teaching Hevra. Hevra were like the teachers or the employees slash teachers that they would train to like work with the students. Teaching Hevra daily, working with them to shape their classes, helping them elevate their consciousness, guiding them through significant decisions, and coaching them on how to be caring teachers to their own students. In one dramatic instance in 2000, he supported our Hevra Bat Sheva Zimmerman just before she was being taken into the Colombian jungle to deliver the Rav's message of peace and the Zohar to the then leader of a paramilitary group and one of the most feared and dangerous men in the country. Now, okay, so this is crazy that I picked this chapter because I remember reading this chapter and thinking that is crazy that they sent one of their employees into a very dangerous situation to spread the light of the Zohar. Now, if you study the Kabbalah at all from the Kabbalah Center, you become to understand that the Zohar is like a holy, not only just like a holy text or holy books, because it's a 22 volume set, the translated, whether it's just in Hebrew or the translation into English, Spanish, whatever. It's 22 volumes. You can get it condensed all in Hebrew, Aramaic in one book. But they say it's like a not, it's not just like a normal book. It's like a portal of light or like an antenna to the upper worlds. And so when you place a Zohar somewhere, or you carry like a mini protective Zohar with you, like my brother carries this when he travels, I carry these with me wherever I go. Madonna carries these with her wherever she goes. Even when she does her tour or performances, they would say she would have these all over the place when she would perform in a venue. And so yeah, it draws the light of like the upper worlds into the physical world. It's a channel, it's a portal. It's not just a book. And so yeah, the fact that they were like having her deliver, and I've heard some of the other teachers tell stories where they went into so they have a thing called Zohar Project. I used to do this as well, but we would never go into like dangerous situations. We would go to like, sometimes we would go to areas that were a little bit more like maybe of like a little more poor of a neighborhood or whatnot, and you'd pass them out to businesses. We would walk into like different shops, hand them when people are walking by, take them to like fire departments, any place that needed like protection or blessing, we would take it to like schools, freaking anywhere really, and pass them out. And that was part of the mission of the Kabbalah Center, is to disseminate the wisdom of Kabbalah and the Holy Zohar throughout the world, and not just for the connection to understand, but just having the Zohar was adding light. It was adding actual physical light, a portal of light into a physical area. So even if you ignored the Zohar, but you had it suddenly placed in the office you worked in, you were going to be having, they call it, what's the word? Surrounding light. So there's, there's like internal light, there's surrounding light. And so, you're having like protection. And they would say sometimes in areas where there was like shady shit going on or crime, and you would put Zohars in that area, crimes that had not been solved in years were suddenly solved, or that you would hear crazy testimonies of when Zohars were brought in certain areas, how it changes the area, or even like say there would be like hurricane warnings at a certain area, and they would go deliver Zohars to the area where it was about to be hit, and the impact was less greater. So there was lots of things and stories they would share of, like, whether you believe every story you hear is up to you, but there's always been lots of testimonies. I've experienced my own testimonies to know that it's not just a bunch of BS. There is something very unique and special about the Holy Zohar, and the universe showed me that through synchronicity. So back to this, I just wanted to preface so you guys understand what she's about to discuss. So one of his teachers, Bathsheba Zimmerman, which the name Bathsheba is the wife of King David in the old text. So Bathsheba Zimmerman, just before she was being taken into the Colombian jungle to deliver the Rav's message of peace and the Zohar to the then leader of a paramilitary group and one of the most feared and dangerous men in the country. She was about to be driven blindfolded to a secret location in the jungle to meet him. Even the drug dealers escorting her were anxious. But the Rav wasn't, and he imbued Bathsheba with certainty and strength. Remember, he told her softly on the phone before she embarked on this seemingly perilous mission, always remember the light is with you. You're going to reveal the light. The light is protecting you. And she came through beautifully. Still, I would never recommend that. I think that was a dangerous decision. I would never counsel someone to do such a thing, but the Rav was like, his own person, and his employees were their own person to make decisions as well. But I'm just saying, do you see, I had issues with certain things with them, and I've spoken about this exact story before on my social media about when I read this, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I understand the whole thing of like certainty and trusting that the light is with you even in scary situations, but I would never put myself or someone else in like such a scary situation just to spread like a holy, book. Even if I understand the consciousness of what's that doing and that you're spreading the physical light, I just would not. And that's fine. No judgment of them. It's just, I just do things differently and I think differently than other people. So it says with 30 or 40 Hevra to teach, counsel, and support, this was becoming an enormous job. But one the Rav relished because he knew he was fulfilling his teacher's prophecy. Often he slept only a few hours a night, but this didn't bother him, for the Rav. See, he was very religious as well. For the Rav, it was a question of purpose. He was spreading light, and that's all that mattered to him. He was very like that, though. And, he was a good man. He may have been ignorant or religious in certain ways, or, I may not agree with how he's done everything, or his wife, but I loved him and I loved her, and I was very influenced in a lot of great ways by them. And they are pioneers for Kabbalah in this world. Absolutely. They deserve that credit. Most of us would not have access to Kabbalah the way that we do without the impact that they made. And Kabbalah has forever bettered my life. I don't have to agree with everything or every teacher or even that community or that family, but Kabbalah came into my life for a specific reason, and I believe it saved my life in a lot of ways and gave me a lot of like spiritual lessons and guidance and protection, even though I had some negative experiences, a lot of them in the community. That's neither here nor there in comparison to the actual wisdom itself. And some of the prayers, they work. I've just, it was mind blowing, the power of like some things that have happened to me with the Zohar, or some of the prayer with like banishing negative forces or healing and protection. I've had actual like physical experiences that were like, or shocking, like miraculous angelic experiences. So yeah, there's definitely something to a lot of it, even though it's very hard to understand because it's like an ancient text, and that can be the Old Testament and these ancient texts from thousands of years ago can be a little bit, because they're not a literal story. So this parables can be very kind of like offensive if you were to like look at it in a sort of literal sort of way, but it's not meant to be literal. So that's how you have to detach from any other um, sort of literal interpretations or any religious interpretations from other people, and take what resonates with you is what I always like, say, um, and leave what doesn't, which a lot of spiritual practitioners that I respect, that's how they view things as well. Um, So it may seem to others that the involvement of celebrities triggered the center's enormous growth, but from the Rav's view as ground zero, the expansion occurred as a result of the excitement from our students and teachers, and they gained consciousness and insight. They wanted to share Kabbalah with friends, and so we grew exponentially. Each student inviting friends and family to classes, and those new students inviting their loved ones, and on it went. In this way, the next 20-year span witnessed unprecedented progress in the spread of the Kabbalistic wisdom, which began to fulfill the Rav's most cherished vision. The center didn't belong to us. It didn't belong to anyone. The Rav and I were merely the first volunteers. We were the original Hevra, which is like, they would work. They were not just volunteers, they would work for them, and they would provide for the Hevra as well. So the Rav was a pioneer, but it was almost like being like, I wouldn't say a bishop or something in Catholicism, or something, like being like in the church or whatever, and like devoting your life to it. The Rav was a pioneer, or left his mark on history by making Kabbalah understandable and accessible to the masses. It was an unthinkable thing to do, yet he did it. It is actually very miraculous. But I'm racing ahead of myself. Let's go back and pick up the thread of the story where we left off. I think we'll just keep it right there. Should I read a little bit more? How far do I want to go? So we're an hour and 40 minutes already. All right, what else am I discussing? I'm going to read a little Tori. I guess I can read a little bit more. All right, we'll go a little bit further. So in 1984, after the center in Israel was up and running again, we headed back to New York. The Rav wanted our sons Yehuda and Michael to attend high school in the United States. And I also want to preface that the Kabbalah Center and, Karen and Rav Berg were always promoted peace between Israel and Palestine. They were always never on either one of sides with anything like that. They always were just like understood that there should be peace between everyone. And so I respect that about them as well, that they were saying that way back when. So the Rav wanted their sons Yehuda and Michael, which Michael and his wife Monica are in charge of the Kabbalah Center currently after Karen and Rav passed away. Yehuda is not involved with the center as directly as much anymore, for various reasons I won't discuss. And Michael to attend, which I don't fully know. I just know there was like a lot of controversy, but I don't know the truth of the story, so I don't give it too much credence. So the Rav wanted our sons Yehuda and Michael to attend high school in the United States. He didn't believe in the Israeli system, in which students were practically slaves to certain institutions. Either they were totally religious and studied at yeshivas, or they were totally secular and then joined the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, the army immediately after graduation. Now, Parashakti, that I studied with, studied shamanism and, you know, was in her tribal council, and she was from Israel too, and she had to. So it's crazy to me that if you're born in Israel, you have to be in the army, and so she had gone through the army as well. It's just like, oh, like I find that terrifying. I would never want to live in a country where you're forced to do something like that. And so yeah, so he didn't believe in the Israeli system in which students were practically slaves to certain institutions. Either they were totally religious and studied at yeshivas, or they were totally secular and then joined the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, the army, immediately after graduation. That's crazy to me. There was no middle ground, which was not to his liking. It seemed me either, Rav. Back in the United States, the Rav and I picked up our lives where we'd so abruptly left off. We returned to the Kew Garden Hills section of Queens. That's where my blood father, David Taylor's from, is from Queens, New York. But I've never been to New York. But to a different house, and then we moved to the adjoining neighborhood of Kew Gardens to a house at 124th Place. The Hevra still lived in Kew Gardens Hills and could still walk to the new house when another property came up for sale 2 doors down from us. The center brought it, and the Hevra moved in there. So we were all very close once again. The Rav went back to teaching his 5 a.m. classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays and giving lectures. First, in the basement of the house, we lived in the 124th Place, and later in the house 2 doors down, occupied by the Hevra. Occasionally, the Rav and I taught at the Gotham Book Mart, a famous bookstore and cultural landmark in Midtown Manhattan. I remember holiday and Shabbat connections in that living room of the house on 124th Place. Our numbers were not always large, but the energy and the love and the depth of prayer was boundless. One Friday night after the services, the Rav and I, Yehuda and Michael, their 2 boys, and a few of the Hevra were sitting around a ping pong table where we ate. The Rav wished each of us gathered around the table Lahaim. Lahaim is kind of like cheers, where you have like a shot of alcohol and you do like a cheers and like a, like a cheers speech or whatever. And you say Lahaim, Lahaim, Lahaim. A toast to life. As his teacher had taught him, he used the toast of Lahaim to direct a special individual message and blessing. We would practice this in all of our centers between the fish and meat courses of the Friday night meal. And that is a part of what we would do during Shabbat, Friday night meals. You do the Lahaim prayer at the end of the meal. But on the particular evening, as he finished blessing those seated around the ping pong table, the Rav paused and said, there will come a day when each of you will be at a different center. We won't be together anymore. We all fell silent. On the one hand, it was painful to contemplate this kind of separation, as the Hevra were so used to being in constant contact with the Rav. But on the other, this vision grew from the Rav's certainty, as it foretold the coming expansion of the Kabbalah Center, eventually into far-flung places such as Russia, Brazil, South Africa, New Zealand, and the Philippines. Of course, this tremendous growth didn't happen all at once. However, the Rav planted the seeds that evening in Queens. In fact, for some of the Hevra who were present, the Rav's words during this powerful Shabbat became a source of energy, a force driving us towards what was to come. These injections of consciousness put air under our wings. As small as they were, we felt huge. As small as we were, we felt huge. We knew that we were with the light. For most spiritual connections, holidays, Shabbat, and Rosh Chodesh, which is the new moons, the celebration of the new moon, the beginning of or head of each month, it was mostly our family and the Hevra, and sometimes students joined us. Soon people would start to fly in from other cities to be a part of Shabbat with the Rav. He would lead the service and at the same time teach the young Hevra how to conduct a Kabbalistic Shabbat. He would speak about the Bible portion before the reading to awaken consciousness, and then again before each meal. Over the years, as the numbers of students and interested people grew, it became pretty crowded in that house. So, despite the Rav's misgivings that we were overspending, the center bought what we now called the Big House at the 83rd to 84th 115th Street in Kew Gardens. It is a large two-story brick home with a semicircular portico in front supported by four white columns. We taught classes there and we used the house as a place to make spiritual connections. Excuse me. I'm burping. People would come in the mornings and stay for the whole day. Today, it's referred to as the Kabbalah Center in Queens. Our lives never settled down into anything approaching normal. Most of the time, the Rav and I lived out loud and in public. We never had evenings where we said, tonight, let's just stay home as a family. We never took a family vacation. That was just not our life. In the new house, we slept on the second floor where there were two bedrooms and an extra room for the Rav's office. Yehuda and Michael studied there too. By this time, Suri had married and moved to Long Island with her husband. Downstairs, the house was devoted to Kabbalah. The kitchen and meeting rooms were communal spaces. Sometimes we would have up to 400 people in the house, a real crowd. It was a shtibel, which literally means small room in Yiddish, a perfectly acceptable home synagogue, of which there are many in Orthodox sections of New York today. The Rav was familiar with such an arrangement because he had experienced it as a younger man. Living this way was not uncommon, and it was what he had tactically agreed to when he took on this role. That house was officially the very first Kabbalah center in the United States, but others were in the making. The Rav began investigating other cities into which we could expand. He had sent Eliyahu Yardeni to scout out Los Angeles as early as 1983, and Eliyahu traveled between New York and Los Angeles several times. By 1985, he had rented a tiny guest house behind a larger home on Sycamore Street in the stately Hancock Park section of La Brea Avenue in the heart of the city. The Rav wanted him to try teaching in this area, which had become an Orthodox enclave, with yeshivas just around the corner. So I used to study at this that center as well, the LA Center, which was near all this like Orthodox area. And I remember going with like the other students, and they had, what's it called? Kosher grocery stores and restaurants. They would have like kosher Subways, like sub sandwich shops. And it was really interesting because it was like all kind of like Orthodox, and all the like food restaurants and stuff were all kind of together. It's like near Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, off centers off Robertson, and then that area, that Orthodox area, is not too far away. So the Rav wanted him to try teaching in this area, which had become an Orthodox enclave, which yeshiva is just around the corner. Although Eliyahu's lodgings were extremely modest, the neighborhood was not. Sycamore is a tree-lined street of iconic Spanish-inspired homes and duplexes, mostly built in the 1920s. The kind that Los Angeles is known for, with red tile roofs, arched French windows, beautiful scrollwork, wrought iron gates and grills. Eliyahu's apartment there was more like a converted garage. Teaching there was not an option given its small size, so Eliyahu moved classes from one place to another. depending on where he could find a short term, inexpensive space. Eventually, he found himself in a crisis. A man asked for his donation back and spoke badly about him. When he described this incident to the Rav during their daily conversation, the Rav said, "Welcome to the world of Moses." Right? Meaning that despite all he had done for them, the Israelites were always complaining to Moses and about him. The Rav reminded Eliyahu, whatever happens to us in our lives provides spiritual opportunities for us to grow. This is what I feel like the light is wanting us to share as well right now. So learn this as well. Even if you have a spiritual destiny in this world that is powerful, you are still going to have these challenging experiences where like even somebody like Moses, who's one of the, like biblical greats, the Israelites never believed him, were always doubting him, criticizing him. I mean, look at the story of Jesus. Look, you don't have to be like, a genius to see that the challenges that righteous people go through or the lack of appreciation that people have of God-given channels in the world, like God-given greats who are like channels, patriarchs and matriarchs in the world. A lot of times we're up against such darkness, and then even like the communities or people did not believe in them or did not acknowledge in their lifetimes who they were spiritually, and then there's people that like completely just will like lie about you or for whatever reason. So yeah, the Rav reminded Eliyahu, whatever happens to us in our lives provides spiritual opportunities for us to grow. But sensing that Eliyahu had hit a wall, the Rav suggested he return to New York for a few months. Eliyahu was not completely discouraged, however. And it is discouraging anytime, like that was the thing, anytime you have conflict with another human being, which is completely what the whole energy of the ninth of Av and the destruction of the Holy Temple came about because of the fighting between different people, and where it gets to a level of like war. And they say like there's a 72 name of God called I just posted the meditation for it on the day of the ninth of Av. It's called all right, so we'll discuss it. Let me share this and then we'll go back to that story. So this is the 72 names of God for it's called Farewell to Arms. So it's representative of the conflict we have between one and another. Like, say, for instance, this week I had this, last week I had that conflict with the person I was in love with. And it was like, it's crazy how like conflict between just two people can have like this energetic influence or impact on, other people. And so that's the consciousness, is to forgive those people, to like remove conflict between you and anyone that's in your life for whatever reason. Just you just know better that it's like it's a micro to the macro sort of situation, that the extreme war and conflict with political you know powers that be in the world are just these macro manifestations of our internal state of conflict with our family or friends in our neighborhoods. And so, when they say be the change you want to see, well, on the butterfly effect sort of quantum level, you want to, on a day like this, look within and say, is there anyone in my heart that I'm in conflict with, and how can I resolve this, or forgive them, or forgive myself, or send love and peace and unconditional love towards them? Because that's what. And so this 72 name of God, which is you read right to left. That is mem. Hold on. I believe that's Membet Hey. Let me just make sure. Farewell to arms. Okay. Diffusing conflict. And so this is what we'll read this meditation as we're learning. It's funny how that just organically led to this discussion. So yeah, farewell to arms, Membet Hey. I'm right. I know the alphabet pretty well, but every once in a while I'm like second guess myself. So bet hey. So say it with me. Bet hey. Now we're diffusing conflict when we meditate on these letters. Now you can Google this 72 names of God, farewell to arms, bet hey. That's MEM, then bet, the middle letter BET, and then hey, HEI. And you can meditate on this word to diffuse conflict between you and anyone or between forces in the world on a quantum level. So now, excuse me, we'll read the consciousness. And I shared this on the day of the 9th of Av over the weekend because it's basically about how separation between people caused the destruction of the Holy Temple. Farewell to arms. Solutions for peace are never political, philosophical, or militaristic. Violence, even when justified, is merely fighting darkness with more darkness. Solutions must be founded upon spiritual light and the human soul. Insight. The conflict and war among nations begin with friction between individual people. A nation at war is simply the effect of spiritual darkness born of animosity and an intolerance among individuals who comprise the nation. As long as brothers or friends can find reason to clash with one another, nations will devise reasons for bloody battle. We've been... Sorry, cameras are going off. We've been duped into believing that our actions toward others have no impact upon the world at large. Wrong. Not only do interactions between two people contribute to the state of the world, each interaction... Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you get mad at people and say, you're not being perfect and you're affecting the world in a bad way. No, worry about yourself. Like, take accountability for yourself. Don't be like running around and telling everybody else what they need to do and what they need to change. That is not the way things work. You work by divinely inspiring people, not forcing or intimidating them or guilting them to change. It doesn't work like that. So anyways, I just wanted to preface that. Like, and even one of my Kabbalah teachers at one time, was like, David, don't worry about what so-and-so is doing. It's about what you're doing. It's about your inner transformation. And when I come from the place of like being like doing any sort of lecture or teaching, I come from a place of like teacher, not preacher, not in a way to make people feel, anything is being forced down their throat or that you have to agree with me, or like, I don't like that from teachers, and I don't ever want to be that type of like teacher. And so wrong. Not only do interactions between two people contribute to the state of the world, each interaction totally and completely transforms the world, which is the cool title of the book, Two Unlikely People to Change the World. Isn't that a great title? I love that title. And but it's difficult to detect this global makeover because everyone else's actions are also transforming the planet at every moment. The state of the world is merely the sum total of human interaction, which, a lot of people speak about Kabbalistically, the tipping point, the time of Messiah that they say we're in now. They say there's like a collective tipping point. Then once a certain amount of people transform or spiritually transform and transmute their negative energy, there will be this tipping point of energy, positive energy in the world, which will cause this sort of like transmutation, if you will, or transformation of the entire earth permanently. They call it the final redemption. And so, yeah. Um, so they say we're in that time, and that's why it seems there's a lot of dark things going on in the world, because that is what is prophesized. So, okay. The state of the world is merely the sum total of human interaction. When enough people make the effort to find good in one another, nations will suddenly and miraculously discover ways to achieve a lasting harmony. There it is, the long hidden formula for world peace. It begins with us. Peace flourishes when we extend tolerance unconditionally to our neighbors. Be aware with complete conviction that our efforts are changing the entire world and that one moment, which comes down to just taking accountability for your own self. And that will mirror in the world. Meditation. Just as the light of a bulb banishes darkness from a room, conflict on every scale between people arguing about a parking space or between nations arguing about an oil field is brought to a peaceful end through the light of this name. Amen. All right, let's finish up what he was discussing about Eliyahu. I just felt like that was a perfect pivot into that meditation. So the Rav reminded Eliyahu, whatever happens to us in our lives provides spiritual opportunities for us to grow. But sensing that Eliyahu had hit a wall, which I had hit my walls in the center as well, with having conflict with people, the Rav suggested he return to New York for a few months. Eliyahu was not completely discouraged, however, he never is. After a short break, he decided to return to Los Angeles, and he convinced the Rav to let him open a center there. With a lot of support from the universe, that center did materialize, and in quite spectacular fashion, here's how it unfolded. Eliyahu had solicited donations every 4 or 5 months from a good-natured and successful businessman we'll call Joe to protect his privacy. So Eliyahu solicited donations every 4 or 5 months from a good-natured and successful businessman we'll call Joe to protect his privacy. Joe lived in Beverly Wood, a relatively new but pleasant part of Los Angeles, about 3 miles west of Hancock Park and just south of Beverly Hills. Joe gave small amounts, maybe $25 at a time. He was not interested in studying Kabbalah, yet on those rare occasions when Eliyahu found him at home, Joe was happy to make a donation and chat with Eliyahu about other things. One night, quite unexpectedly, Joe and his wife showed up where Eliyahu was teaching. They came in with one of Eliyahu's students who happened to be their friend. She told us about the class she was taking, and it sounded intriguing. Joe said, eager to learn more, Joe asked if Eliyahu gave private lessons, which of course he did. The following week, right after his first lesson, Joe told Eliyahu, my wife and I have decided to start a Kabbalah center here in Los Angeles. I'll write you a check for whatever you need. Just give me a proposal. Fortunately, we had created a similar proposal from someone else in Los Angeles several years earlier. Eliyahu just needed to update the numbers. That same week, one of Eliyahu's friends told him about some office space for a lease on Westwood Boulevard near Pico. I used to live near Pico for a little bit, I believe North Hollywood. Less than 3 miles south of UCLA on the west side of Los Angeles. It was on the second floor of a small strip mall. Directly across from the Juniors, a well-known local deli. Amazingly, this space was perfect for a fledgling center. It had been configured as a computer school, but that lessee had just backed out of the deal. Eliyahu was delighted when he walked through the space. There was a big classroom, an office, and a waiting room. The walls had just been painted, and all the carpeting was brand new. What a godsend. Eliyahu called to tell us about the stroke of good fortune. Okay, so do it, the Rav said, sharing in his students' excitement. Eliyahu finished revising the proposal and presented it to Joe, who immediately wrote a check for a full year's rent. That's amazing. The Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles was becoming a reality, assuming the rest of the pieces fell into place. One of Eliyahu's friends created an electric sign that read Kabbalah Center. An electric sign. That's so funny. That cracks me up. I didn't know that. An electric sign. They needed a permit from the city to mount it, which they quickly obtained, and the sign went up in a matter of days. Joe's business had many offices in Los Angeles, one of which had recently closed, so he had lots of extra furniture. Come and take what you need. We've got couches, chairs, desks, and bookshelves. He told Eliyahu overnight the center was fully furnished. After listening to a series of Kabbalah classes on tape, one student became so excited that he volunteered to step up and become chief cook and bottle washer, taking care of the odd jobs that needed doing. Now the center had a location and a staff. All right, we'll stop there. So it's just kind of cool the process of like how they turned into this like international like phenomenon. I would love to just read. I'm going to read that whole book again. All right, so now we'll jump into a little bit about Tori Amos. And then there's going to be a part 2 to this episode, which we'll get into like some of the nitty gritty subjects of like what actually I wanted to pivot, because you know the whole Beastmaster theme. That's why I was using like, I like that song by what's her face? From Slater Beat Up Chanel's, how she's like, money, drugs, chains on my chest, bad bitches, vintage Celine. But I liked it, the theme of kind of the Beastmaster, how they're wearing like, it's all like, you know, like the hot freaking girls and the fucking warrior outfits and the chains, and it's all like, you know, bad guys and sex and money and blah blah blah. It's, you know, like the whole. So I just thought the theme of like that and just like the world kind of went well with this like theme of like this old like Beastmaster sort of like energy. Um but also I wanted to discuss things like in life, like drugs, sex, money, how those are kind of like a lot of the things that are glamorized, like, and that's why it's like chains on my chest, like in like, you know, like a lot of like hip hop rap culture, even like rock and roll, alternative. There's, you know, and just the entertainment industry, like in general, is musically speaking, or pop culture, there's a lot of that sort of like flossy, like frivolous material world. Like everything's just like about all this like sort of like shallow things, and how that can really be a deterrent from what is true, what is really important in the spiritual side of things, and how there's all these like materialism or like temptations of like physical temptations of like sex without love, drugs, and the burnout from that, or like the karma of these things, or money over purpose, or money over like spirit, or money like blood money, or you know what I mean, or money from like greed. There's an energy to money, and there's like people sometimes think there's no consequence to the way they attain money. So if you're doing like shady things and you think there's no going to be sort of like repercussion, sometimes you have to like make mistakes to learn how that works. And that's what happened to me, was like in my 20s, 30s, you know, is when I made a lot of those mistakes and did things for the wrong reasons, did drugs, had sex without love, did not have respect for money, did things that weren't respectable to attain money, was greedy, was selfish, like, and had consequences because of it. And when you experience that up and down many times, and you will see how the fucking universe will straight up snatch shit back from you. You may think, oh, I can do these fucked up things and get away with it, and like take the shortcut, you know what I mean? Or covet what somebody else has, or take from them and I don't have to earn it. That's not the way life works. And you will put yourself 10 steps back than had you if you had done it the right way. And so sometimes that has been like a very hard pill for me to swallow over the years, was the repercussions of just not knowing better, not having like, parents to like guide me in the real world once I was like kind of like, thrown to the wolves, like from 18 on. And even before then, honestly. And as a teenager, I was like really not being watched over, and I was getting into lots of like trouble. And my parents did not have my back, and that's just what it is. And but I paid a heavy price, of like debt and pain and suffering. And trust me, I have dealt a heavy price over the years for a lot of the mistakes and lessons I've learned. And even though it's made me a great person and things are on the up and up now, those were hard lessons to learn. Um, and I wish, some of them I could have avoided altogether. And yeah, so I just wanted to, that was a lot of the, we'll talk more about some of those stories and those lessons on part 2, which I'll either do in a few days. I'm thinking maybe of what date are we in? Maybe I'll do it on the Lionsgate portal, the second episode. That's 4 days from now. We'll see. I'll either do it in the next couple of days, or I may push it. I don't know if I want to do it on that day. We'll see. So from now to the 8th, I'll do part 2 of this episode. But right now we're connecting to Tori Amos. Her father, who was a preacher, passed away. And so I want to give a little homage to her and him. So this is a beautiful book. I have not read all of it. So this is kind of like her life story. Piece by Piece was a very different type of book. This is more like her history as like a child with her parents, and as she was like an adult. Now what she does, what I love, is she takes certain songs she wrote throughout her career, and she'll write the lyrics in the book. So this is a song, Scarlet's Walk, which is a lot about, that was her album that was like about her Native American heritage and all her teachings from her mother. I believe it's her mother's side. And so she has songs in between the chapters. So she'll put a song and then have a chapter. And so I love how she really just like blended. So I'm on 134 in here. I would like to find, which chapter do I want to read? Or I'll read some of a chapter. What is this? I don't remember that. I don't want to lose that page. I would like to find one that talks about her dad. Let me keep this here. Even if I'm a bitch. Actually, so this one, she has a song that this is probably her most like one of my favorite songs of hers, called Taxi Ride. Which is like I think it was an homage to Kevin Aucoin, the famous makeup artist who died. You know, he was huge in the industry, and and it's also about, you know, being gay and being discriminated against. And then she talks about the LGBT community right here. Um, where's my bookmark? Actually, let me just bookmark this. I want to find something about her dad. The dad, I think, is more in the beginning of the book. Oh, here's her dad. Okay, so I'll show you a picture of him. See, this is him. See right up here? That's him. That's the exact picture she just posted yesterday of him. She didn't, you know, she's devastated because she didn't even put, she put the picture and with the date that he died and nothing else. So I know she's like devastated. His name is the Reverend Dr. Edison McKinley Amos, 1983. I guess that's when the photo was taken. He wasn't born then. And then there's like pictures of them when they were younger. Let me see if this. Okay, yeah, here's a little. I'll just read this little section about her dad right here. All right, so this is 1977, which is the year I was born. So when I was 13, she goes, when I was 13, a couple of months shy of my 14th birthday, my father took me to Georgetown to get a professional job playing piano and singing. It's a fact that my father, the Reverend Edison McKinley Amos, soon to be Reverend Dr. E.M. Amos, had more than a dose of Mama Rose, the most infamous stage mother of all time, pulsing through his veins. And although, isn't that from Gypsy? And although he was a man of the cloth, he was also a tenaciously pragmatic force to be reckoned with, especially if you were his teenage daughter. I'll never forget his summation of my life as the two of us drove to Georgetown that balmy afternoon, with my mother visiting relatives in North Carolina and my two older siblings having fled the nest. It really was the two of us on this penitent road to achieve, as the good Reverend revealed, my salvation. The sermon began as we pulled out of the parsonage's driveway in the shadow of the Good Shepherd United Methodist Church, my father being the appointed shepherd to that flock since 1972. The personally directed sermon went something like this: Myra Ellen, so that's Tori Amos's birth name, Myra Ellen. Like Jonah in the Old Testament, you refused to fulfill God's divine plan, which had been bestowed upon you since you were 2.5 years old. This is like her dad saying this to her. You were entrusted with the gift of music before you could talk. Being the youngest musician accepted into the Peabody Conservatory at 5 years of age, which she was, the trajectory was clear. God had shown me a vision of you playing on a concert stage by the time you were 13. But like Jonah, you turned your back on the mission that God had assigned for you. Now, mind you, Tori was very rebellious against the Christian church and like her father and all this, and especially in her music. Um, and religious, like, doctrine or dogmas. Um, God had shown me a vision of you playing on a concert stage by the time you were 13. And now he became very open minded and more like lenient as she became an adult. And their relationship was really close after that. But back then, he was a little bit, probably like a little bit stricter when she was a youngin'. But like Jonah, you turned your back on the mission that God had assigned for you because of your rebelliousness towards your professors and your disrespect for classical and sacred music with that sassy attitude. You got yourself kicked out of the conservatory at 11 years of age. The way I see it, you are drowning in your own self-destructive sea of mediocrity. After betraying God and drowning as well, Jonah spent 3 days inside of a whale. You have spent 3 years of ignoring your potential. Ooh, ouch. So God has directed to me to take you to Georgetown, where He will guide us to a place for you to play music and learn your craft. And this is like where he takes her to like a gay bar. It's so funny that I just happened to find this chapter flipping through. It may be a smaller stage than you could have been playing, but God will provide. Together with me dressed in my sister's clothes and platform shoes, and my father declaring his faith with his clerical collar. So he's going into these gay bars with his like priest, the little, white collar thing. That is so funny. And so yeah, together with me dressed in my sister's clothes and platform shoes, and my father declaring his faith with his clerical collar secure above the cross pinned to his lapel, we asked to play at every restaurant and bar on M Street. Following many hours of rejections and after the sun had set, I finally said, "Look, thanks for trying, Dad, but obviously there's no room at the inn for us. Can we just go home? We don't have to tell anybody about this." With a pained but determined look in his eyes, he said, "Ellie, my God will not fail us." At what seemed to be the last remaining bar in Georgetown, Mr. Henry's on Wisconsin Avenue, my father spoke with a tough looking guy standing by the door. The guy told us to wait while he got the manager. Once my father explained that he was hoping to find a place where I could play, the manager agreed to let me try. If I was good, I could play for tips. The bar had only male customers. And I had played a song on the upright piano. The men started making requests and putting dollars in a brandy snifter that someone had put on the piano. The requests were for popular songs of the day with a nod to show tunes. With a nod to show tunes. That's hilarious. When I did not know a song, I would write the title down and promise that if I was invited back next weekend, I would learn it and play it for the customer if he came back to see me. After I had gotten my bearings, I glanced over at my dad. The clerical collar was an icebreaker because at first the customers assumed he was wearing a costume. Once it had rippled through the room that he was an actual preacher and the daughter of a preacher man, curiosity about our plight and then advice to us began in earnest. Some of the customers looked like lumberjacks. Others like John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. And then some of them looked like deacons in a church or congressmen you'd see on TV. Fucking hilarious. It's like YMCA. Just kidding. After I had played for several hours, my dad and I were happy to be invited back to play the following Friday night. We did not experience Mr. Henry's as a den filled with deviants, as defined by some of my father's parishioners. Once they found out about the gay bar that had given me a chance, some good Christians warned that we, along with those homosexuals, were going to burn in the fiery rivers of hell. I was quite proud of my father's response to that rabble. There's no safer place for a 13-year-old girl than in an all gay bar. Amen, Dad. God bless you. Mr. Amos. God bless you, Reverend Edison McKinley Amos. Sending my prayers to you, Tori Amos, the family. All right, and now let's read this little. So this is the song "Taxi Ride," and she just talks for a few pages, and then we'll wrap this up. I may do one more little discussion about this week's Bible portion, and then we'll wrap it up because I like to take it to 3 hours, and we're at 2 hours and 25 minutes. So I'll read this. We'll do a little bit of just like this week's Bible portion, what it's about, and that's it. Okay, and then I'll get more into like the wild and crazy stories on the part 2. Just some personal stories and things and lessons I've learned. But I like to share like some of my personal life experiences and stuff that goes with the theme of what we're talking about. So Taxi Ride is one of my favorite Tori Amos songs. Go listen to it. Here's the lyrics. I'm just reading. She wrote it here in between this next chapter where she talks about the LGBTQIA plus community. So, and this is the song that's like an homage to Kevin O'Quan, which if you're ever were a makeup artist, I was like a makeup artist in my 20s also for like maybe like a year at Dillard's in the fashion show mall for it was an Estee Lauder company called Prescriptives. And that's how I was learning through the Kevin O'Quan books, because he was like the best of the best, and he had books that showed you all the techniques he would use on all the movie stars. So Tori Amos is even in his book because they would work together a lot, and that's why they were so close. So it says, Lily is dancing on the table. We've all been pushed too far. I guess on days like this, you know who your friends are. Just another dead fag to you, that's all. Just another light missing on a long taxi ride. And I'm down to your last cigarette and this we are one crap as you're invading. This thing you call love. She smiles way too much, but I'm glad you're on my side, sure. I'm glad you're you're on my side still. You think you deserve a trust fund just because you want one. Sure, you talk the talk when you need to. I feel the whole world is starting to believe you. Just another dead fag to you, that's all. Just another light missing. In a long taxi line, and I'm down to your last cigarette and this we are one crap as you're invading. This thing you call love, she smiles way too much. But I'm glad you're on my side, sure. I'm glad you're on my side still. Lily is dancing on the table. We have all been pushed too far today. Even a glamorous bitch can be in need. This is where you know the honey from the killer bees. I'm glad you're on my side, sure. I'm glad you're on my side still. Got a long taxi ride ahead. Got a long taxi ride from St. Pete's to Moscow, then back to Washington. See how I literally have chills on my bodies from her lyrics. Like Tori Amos taught me how to channel lyrics and music from like the ether, from the upper worlds, and like to connect with muses. I learned that through her. I had the natural gift of that, but she helped me understand what was going on with me in such a beautiful way. And like, just if you watch her interviews over the years, I would listen to all her music, watch all her interviews, buy her concert videos, buy her books, read her books. So I was like always immersed in her brain and consciousness and absorbing any of her wisdom. So here's the little 3-page chapter that goes and coincides with this song. June 15th, 2014. Now this is when she's an adult and she's touring. So she's touring in Moscow, Russia. June 15th, 2014. I was aware that our protest narrative would need to be fully grounded in the Crocus Arena the night before Vladimir Putin would take the same stage the next day. So, you know, she's obviously like pro LGBTQIA. She's a Democrat. She's, you know, so she's like in this area of like this dictatorship and this like obviously discriminatory president that we all are well aware of, Vladimir Putin, would take the same stage the next day. The set list needed to reflect everything I had been learning from the Russian people over the years through, and then meanwhile, she has all these Russian fans. So think of that like dichotomy of like, you have fans of people in a country that is, highly oppressed as well, which is like an interesting feat for artists to go into countries that are, like dictatorships and against, and where the politics are against everything that they represent musically and that their fans represent. It's a very like dangerous sort of like situation to even like go there. But yeah, she was, obviously brave enough to do so. The set list needed to reflect everything I had been learning, and this is what a really good ally is, because she's straight. I think she's had attraction to women, but she's like straight, married to a male or whatever, and I don't think she ever fully like identified as like bisexual that I've heard of in the media, but she did say she had like a strong love for her like one of her best friends, which was a female. But and I think maybe she has like attraction to women, but whatever. This is what I feel like a really great ally is, somebody that's willing to go into like a situation like that and still like represent for like our community. Tori Amos is one of the greatest allies for the LGBTQ A plus community and the music industry. So I just wanted to say that. Okay, the set list needed to reflect everything I had been learning from the Russian people over the years through conversations and letters. I am always amazed how some of them deal with propaganda and lies on a daily basis. Psychological warfare is a constant attack they must resist so they don't become completely demoralized or worse, a convert or an unknowing messenger of the attacker passing lies to someone who trusts them. It's been drummed into my soul by those with this type of life experience that you either combat Kremlin disinformation or you become their asset. Even defending yourself while you are searching for enemies among your colleagues, family, and even then among your good friends. Westerners, when we are going to get Westerners, when are we going to get this? Putin wants to resurrect a variation of the former brutal Soviet Union with a gaggle of oligarchs served by presidents worldwide, including American senators and judges. To name a few, Putin intends to be the head of a new global order. He believes America and democracy in any republic must be not, must be not just destroyed but annihilated from within. He believes most of us can be compromised by what we don't see sitting in our blind spot. Good people can be groomed. All of us are bait. No, some of us can be bought with money, but every one of us wants something, even if it is to help someone we love. If we can ask ourselves a very serious and important question, how can I be compromised? This question is worth the beginning of a discussion with ourselves and with each other. Jesus, it might be a theme running through the new album. Over the years, Russians had confided in me how they defend themselves against the dark art of information warfare, and one of its deadly symptoms, demotivation. Literally, the Russian people defend and armor themselves with art. The art they collect becomes part of their arsenal. It could be a passage in a novel that they have memorized, one they have hardwired in their mind. It could be the pattern in a painting that gives them a new vision. It may be that a poet has been able to reclaim words that have been unaffected by those who are weaponizing language, and this poem has redeemed the words and transmuted them safe and sound back to the listener's arsenal. It might be a piece of music that resurrects an emotion the listener thought had been killed off. Any of the artistic disciplines could bring protection and resurrection. By the key was that they understood this and they believed it with every cell of their being. And that is what kept their hearts and minds free from imprisonment by tyrants. That night in Moscow, the set list also needed to include the perspective from the Ukrainian people who had come to Russia to enlighten me about the battle they were waging for their country's future. It was announced on June 13th that we would not be going to Kiev. The show had been canceled by the promoter. Just a few months earlier, on February 24th, 2014, Russia had invaded Ukraine. See how far back? Since November 2013, Ukrainians wanting closer ties with Europe had been protesting President Viktor Yanukovych pro Moscow policies. He refused to sign a political association agreement with a trade pact with the European Union. Instead, he accepted a deal from Putin, bringing Ukraine closer to a Moscow driven Eurasia than to democratic Europe. Ukrainians took to the streets calling this act by Yanukovych treason, which brought about Euromaidan and Ukrainian revolution. Anti government demonstrations continued in Kyiv, as did the violence against the protesters. February 20th, 2014 was Kyiv's worst day of violence, during which dozens and dozens of people were killed by sniper fire. So sick. Yanukovych fled to Moscow. The meet and greet in Moscow on June 15th was very emotional for me. We had played St. Petersburg the night before, and I had been reading the many letters I had received there. My goal was to be better informed so I could ask useful questions at the Moscow meet and greet, but something magical happened, something that I have seen only once in a while over the years. The audience came up with the questions I should be asking and then enlightened me with their responses. I have found there is no greater value than hearing about someone's own experience, how they see the world, and why they see it the way that they do. Then they usually point me in the direction of an article or a book or a documentary that expands on the subject. Being in Russia at this particular time in history was a turning point for me as a person and as an artist. A year before, in June 2013, Putin had signed the gay propaganda law. It banned the promotion of non traditional sexual relations to minors. The consequence of this draconian law was the LGBTQ youth in Russia had very little access to health and educational support services about gender and sexuality. It affected teachers and psychologists who now couldn't provide positive counseling. It was against the law to tell an LGBTQ teenager they were normal and provide them with reliable information about gender identity and sexual orientation. LGBTQ youth couldn't be directed to websites that understood the issues they faced. This federal ban included information provided by radio, television, press, and the internet. The persecution of the LGBTQ community was and is real and terrifying. My set list in Moscow would speak loud and clear. There were requests, and someone brought me the lyrics to the lesbian anthem, Never Gonna Get Us by Tattoo. President Putin was scheduled to speak in the Crocus Arena the next day, but tonight the stage was not his. And the songs, the piano, the muses, and I were going to serve the people who had, in some cases, risked a lot to get the show in Moscow. The set list was supposed to be as follows. Part 1, Parasol, Caught a Light Sneeze, Tori Says Hello, Crucify, Bells for Her, Icicle, Purple People, Carbon, Weatherman, Lizard Lounge, Not Gonna Get Us, Love Song, Part 2, Taxi Ride, Cooling, A Sort of Fairy Tale, Forest of Glass, Blood Roses, Take to the Sky, Encore, Cornflake Girl, In Your Room, Northern Lad, Hate Jupiter. The audience understood the energy. They were communicating mind to mind, heart to heart. The song Carbon was swapped out for Leather because the latter just burst through and took over at the piano. And when the songs do that, I follow their lead. Not Gonna Get Us, into Love Song, into Taxi Ride was a call to action, a sonic trifecta. But soon after that, something very strange happened at the side of the stage where Marcel van Limbeek sat at his monitor board. There was a lot of commotion. When I walked off before the encore, more than a dozen very tall and intimidating men in suits were invading the stage. They would later walk through the rooms backstage, making sure that everything was secure for the next day, which really could have been done after I left. But that was fine. I stood as they looked through my dressing room, politely standing my ground with the treasured letters I had been given by the people from Russia and Ukraine. Safely in my handbag and coming with me. First, I would finish this protest show for the people who had come. We would not be bullied by intimidating security. I had not surrendered Crocus to them, not yet. As the crowd made its way, to the front of the stage for the encore with hearts and minds and the most beautiful flowers, I told Mindy Pelletier, my very brave lesbian tour manager, to tell Andy Yates in Monitor City to get on the radio and tell the crew another change was coming. And so was Anastasia. She has a song called Yes, Anastasia. Ugh. All right, there's just a little bit more. After the Moscow show, we flew to Turkey. Luggage was collected and put into vans as we were put into SUVs hugging the Bosporus on our way to the hotel in Istanbul, where we were staying after the Russia gigs. The letters from Russia and Ukraine were safe in my bags because Kyiv had been canceled. The crew had gone on to Bulgaria to wait for our show there, which in, oh my lord, my nose is running now. Ugh. Oh my god, sorry. Ugh. 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 Because Kyiv had been canceled, the crew had gone onto Bulgaria to wait for our show there, which in crew speak means find an Irish bar. The crew swears that wherever you are, you can find an Irish bar. I'm part Irish too. And that you will be welcome, swap stories, and enjoy a few pints. The Mindinator Mindy made it very clear to me and to Barry Lee Moe, hair and makeup on the road, and my gay confidant, that we could not run around Istanbul thinking we were in Paris. So here was my problem. Not so many years earlier, I had run around Istanbul as if it were Paris with my new Turkish gal pals. We sought bargain prices for antique rugs. Istanbul reminded me of a variation on some of the stunning, fashionable cultural cities in Europe. Afterward, we would share the best mezzi platter and tea on the Bosporus, and they spoke of their ambition and their goals as independent women. I found their ideas irresistible. They were a budding democratic energy percolating through the whole city. This was gone now under the rule of Prime Minister and soon to be President Erdogan. Freedoms can be taken away before you realize they are gone. Confined to my hotel, I traveled back through those memories. I looked around poolside and saw mostly women tourists ordering their lunch from waiters. The men were out and about doing business. In 2005, I had been out and about doing all kinds of business, accompanied by amazing women in a progressive Turkish posse. Excuse me. These women worked in the entertainment industry with the promoter or with the record label. They spoke their minds about issues in their culture, about their personal and professional contributions as women to their society, and there was no fear of doing that back then. Turkey was modernizing and breaking the chains of draconian authoritarianism. The concert I was to play in 2005 reflected what the stylish, innovative Turkish people were teaching me. And yes, this included going to the Blue Mosque, the Soleimaniye Mosque, sorry, I'm butchering that, and Hagia Sophia, which had been built in AD 537. This set list was to reflect my new found passion for this city that bridged Europe and Asia. It was a magical night for me playing outside under the stars. As I sat poolside in 2014, the memory of how the show ended hit me like a flare distress signal. Sometimes when things happen during shows, I soldier on and don't process what is happening in the moment. If I were to do that, I might never finish the show or take the stage again. That's how I can keep doing this for 40 years. To deflect crisis management to another time is how I cope with the strange and weird and even scary stuff that happens on tour. But as I sat in the four-star Turkish hotel under the sun, the final portion of that show in Istanbul played in slow motion. During the song The Beekeeper, which I told you about, was her mother. She wrote that song about her mother dying, the beekeeper, about God coming in to take her mother. As I reached for the organ, I was thrown back into the Bosendorfer. That's her piano. That's her brand of piano she uses on tour. I had never experienced an electric shock before, so when Marcel ran out to check on me for a moment, I didn't know what was happening. Everything stopped and everything was still going all at once. I saw it as a warning, but a warning of what? Events tend to reveal, maybe even years later, the possible poetry of what seem like unrelated moments. Isn't that true how life does that sometimes? A potential experience captured in a Polaroid, then filed into a time machine to uncover those layers later with the help of history lens. Yep. Sometimes there's this woven tapestry of like connections from that could be from like 2 decades ago that weaves into like a karmatic moment now. You know what I mean? That's like life is very sometimes people don't connect the dots, but a lot of times it's very connected things that you wouldn't even think would be so intricately woven. Hours after the outdoor concert on June 22nd, I thought how different the atmosphere was between the two Istanbul gigs of 2005 and 2014. We're almost done. So it's just like two paragraphs left. Someone working the 2014 Istanbul show had confided in me the real threats he faced as a gay man. These threats were getting worse by the year. The psychological toll it was taking led him to develop a disguise to protect him from being targeted. He spoke about the number of people like him in Turkey feeling the necessity to live double lives in order to keep their jobs. He told me that was why it was so important for supporters of LGBTQ rights to join together to promote equality at Istanbul's Pride, the largest LGBTQ celebration in the Muslim world. They did not know it yet, but some peaceful activists and supporters of Pride 2014 would be met with rubber bullets and tear gas. Watching a different country from your own watching a different country from your own become possessed by authoritarians who at their head have a tyrant or a mob boss, whatever you want to call it. This was not an unemotional observation. The letters from Russia and Ukraine that I read over those few days in Turkey were a warning of global economic aristocracy on the rise. Russia's people had been left with very little while a few men got extremely rich. The letters explained that people had to be careful about what they said. Sound familiar to what's going on in America now? It was not as if thousands of Russians had not protested against the abuses of those in power, but many who did protest were killed or jailed. Others were threatened in other ways. Some said, all this could never happen in America. Oligarchs. But I had played piano bar off the K Street corridor in the late 70s and the early 80s, underscoring the hotbed of conservatives. Yes, I was underneath them with my hands on the keys and my ears pricked. They thought a teenage girl was just a thing, serving their needs and playing their requests. The truth is, as I sat there playing what they wanted me to play, I was listening to them as hard as I could and recording in my mind their every word. Just like the Akashic Records. Anyways, guys. Okay, we're at 250. I'll give you a little bitty boo of this week's Bible portion, which I believe is, what is it? No. Ni Vietnam. All right, here, let's read just a little. I'll just read. It's just 3 pages of consciousness, and then that'll take us to the 3-hour mark. And then we'll be finished. Lessons of Vayet Kanam. The secret of Shabbat Nakamu. Nakamu, I don't know how you say it. The portion of Vayet Kanam, which is also called Shabbat. So this is from the Old Testament. We're in the book of, we just went to Deuteronomy. We left the book of Numbers into the book of Deuteronomy. So I believe it was this the second chapter of, yeah. So Devarim was the first chapter, and Vayekanam is the second chapter of Deuteronomy. So the portion of Vayekanam, which is also called Shabbat Nakamu, is always read in the week after the 9th of Av, which we were just discussing. The destruction of the Holy Temple, and they say it. So Av in Hebrew is Leo. So the 9th of Av is basically the 9th of Leo. And so that's considered energetically and Kabbalistically the most negative day of the entire year. And it's also the day that Karen Berg, the head of the Kabbalah Center, she left the world. That's her death anniversary on the 9th of Av, which I thought was really interesting. All right. The Shabbat following the 9th of Av is known as the Shabbat of consolation, as if it were possible to forget the pain just because Shabbat arrives. The energy of Shabbat is very powerful, but can one Shabbat give us the power to forget all the troubles we have endured? To answer this, we must understand that the power of the negative side lies not only in causing us to doubt, but also in keeping us in doubt and fear for a day, a week, a year, or even many years. Often, when we do something that we regret, we ask ourselves, why did I do that? How could I have done that? I was doing that to myself this week when I had an emotional reaction, you know, to the guy I was like having very strong feelings for and love for. Um, and I was beating myself up after as well. This feeling can stay with us throughout our life, and it affected me all week long. This feeling can stay with us throughout our lives, and that's why I wanted to make it clear that I don't want him upset. I don't want to be upset. That's why I apologized. I took accountability. That's why he did as well. He knows as well, and I know he gets it as well, as that, we don't, no matter how flawed we all are, we don't, when you truly like care about someone, you can see that they're imperfect, and you don't want any sort of like bad energy between either one of you, when ultimately it came about from you guys fully caring about each other. Just sometimes it just, you know, you love's a very tricky situation like that, where you can, be hurt and react and cause pain. Anyways, why did I do that? How could I have done that? This feeling can stay with us throughout our lives. And that is the negative side at work. Like the negative side wants him to stay upset at me, wants me to stay upset at him, wants to cause separation between a powerful love. This is what the negative side fuels on causing separation between people. So when you are adding to your sort of separation between you and someone else in the world, you are basically giving the negative side what it wants, and you're becoming a channel for the negative side. So you have to have that sort of like mature consciousness to overcome your ego for the greater good, and see that even you can become a channel for the negative side if you're not careful, and let your ego get the best of you with blame and reaction and reactivity and retaliation and judgment, unforgiveness. So this feeling can stay with us throughout our lives, and that is the negative side at work! Exclamation point, it says. The Shabbat of consolation does not teach us to ignore negative events. Yes, the temple was burned and there was so much pain, but should we cry that we don't have a temple, or should we work to create a new one? It is written that hatred for no reason caused the destruction of the temple. Only love for no reason can restore it. So we must so we must ensure that love for no reason is our spiritual work. I love that. Love for no reason. Every time a disaster strikes us, we ask why. Every time we do something wrong, we ask, how could I have done such a thing? But the key to our fulfillment is asking the question, when will I start working to make things better? Remember, the power of the negative side is not only to bring us down, but also to keep us without hope of positive change. This Shabbat, the Shabbat of consolation, gives us the power to rise after we fall. Anyone can connect to the tree of life. Toward the end of the World War One, toward the end of the World War One, there lived in Russia a great sage known as the Kafetz Chaim. This was the time of Russian Revolution, and the revolutionaries had entered the town where the Kafetz Chaim lived. They immediately turned turmoil. They immediately created turmoil by releasing all the criminals from jail, including a notorious thief and murderer named Moshe. Using threats and intimidation, Moshe soon became a powerful person in the town. One day, when the Kafetz Chaim was out walking with two of his students, Moshe came walking towards them. The Kafetz Chaim looked straight at him and said, Shabbat Shalom, Moshe, to which Moshe answered, Shabbat Shalom, my master. The Kafetz Chaim then said, perhaps you'll join us for the third meal of Shabbat. Moshe replied, I've already had the third meal. And the Kafetz Chaim asked him again, saying, well, maybe you'll come with us anyway. Then Moshe understood that the Kafetz Chaim had something important to reveal, so he agreed to go. When they arrived at the house, the Kafetz Chaim directed his students to leave so that he could be alone with Moshe, but the students left the door open just a crack so they could hear what was about to transpire. The Kafetz Chaim spoke to the criminal, saying, Moshe, I want to teach you a word of Torah. Moshe answered, What do I care about the Torah? But the Kafetz Chaim continued, Moshe, please listen. It is written in the beginning of the Torah, and God planted a garden in Eden. Why did God have to put the tree of life purposefully in the middle of the garden? Because if the tree of life was at the corner of the garden, the distance to the tree from one side would be farther than from the other. Therefore, God put it in the middle so that the distance to the tree would be even from all sides. He continued, After Shabbat, I am leaving. You and the revolutionaries have promised to give food and shelter to everyone in this town, but so far you've done nothing but cause trouble. I myself provide food for 42 families when I'm gone. Who will feed them? This is why I told you about the tree of life in the garden, which is accessible from all sides in the world to come. If you promise me you'll give food to all the families, I promise you that you will reach the tree of life. Moshe answered, I agree, my master, I promise. We have a deal. Then Moshe went out and saw the students had overheard what he said. He said to the eavesdroppers, If there were more masters like him in the world, we wouldn't need a revolution. This teaches us that literally anyone can reach the tree of life, which is in the middle of the Garden of Eden. It is a merit that we have. The Rav, like the Kafetz Chaim, cares nothing about what a person may have done in the past. The important thing is how each and every one of us can reach the tree of life. Another important matter, the great sage, this is the last page, and then we're done. Right at 301. So we're hitting it right on the head pretty much. Another important matter, the great sage Joseph Bluck once wrote a beautiful allegory. A man was getting ready to go to America from the Middle East. In those days, the journey took several months by sea, and the ship was scheduled to stop in France for 2 weeks to load food that would last for the rest of the journey. Since the man knew he would be stopping in France, he decided to learn French before departing on the trip. By the time the ship sailed, he had indeed managed to learn French, but he didn't have time to learn English, the language of his final destination. When the ship reached France, the man disembarked and enjoyed every minute of his stay, and knowing the French language helped him immensely. Then, after 2 weeks, he returned to the ship to continue his trip to America. When he arrived in America, he again tried to speak French, but no one could understand him. The Americans told him, You're a fool. You were in France for only 2 weeks, but the rest of your life you're going to be in America. You went and learned French instead of learning English, which is the language you'll need for your whole entire life. This is an allegory that we can apply to our lives as a whole. Our existence here in this physical world is analogous to the man's visit to France. We stay here for only a little while, and yet we work hard to learn the language. But the language that we really need is the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. By learning this language, we will merit to see the face of Messiah and to see the building of the temple in our own days. Synopsis of Vayet Kanam. This portion opens with Moses pleading to God. We must understand that we're not alone in this world and that we must ask God for help. If we have a great gift coming to us, we might not get it if we don't ask for it. Asking God is not something to do only in time of need. It's a tool we should use all the time to connect to the light. That was the perfect ending to this episode. And it's funny because I was like, I had, components for this episode, and I let kind of the muses take hold and divine inspiration. And I'm really just happy with this episode. And just, it felt just like divinely orchestrated. And I just love like how it turned out. And I'm excited to do part 2 in the next few days. Thank you guys for joining me on the Supernal David podcast, season 1, episode 3, part 1, the Beastmaster. I love you guys so much. This was awesome, and it turned out great. Oh, you know what? And then I'll save the Ganesha reading for part 2. Do I want to wait for that? Yeah, because I'll discuss a little bit more like history about Ganesha on that one. Let's see, and then so yeah, the next one we'll do. Actually, let's do a Shaman's Dream one right now, since we were talking more about shaman stuff with the Beastmaster, and then part 2 will go more into like Ganesha. Because I would like to give a little more information about Ganesha and talk about my dream experience with him, which I've shared before, but I'll just bring it up very quickly again. Let's do a quick Shaman's Dream because it's a short card reading. They're like really short, like literally like one little. So let's just pick a card just to leave on like a consciousness note. All right, the Shaman's Dream Oracle, dear spirit, please give us a little collective inspiration. So yeah, that was a great message too as well about incorporating, like including God and asking God for help and guidance, asking spirit, source, energy, whatever you want to call it. All right, we got this jumped out of the deck. The Wall, obstacles. That straight jumped out of the deck. Love it when that happens. All right, and here's the shot. So this is by Alberto Villoldo, who also, I told you, did was a part of Itzhak Berry, Shaman Itzhak Berry, my friend Itzhak Berry, his book, Shamanic Healing. And this is also done with Colette Baron Reed, who does a lot of Oracle decks. The Shaman's Dream Oracle and the Wall. Let's see what number is it? Oh, 56. Okay. Page 112. All right, here's our message for the die, or one of them. The Wall. Obstacles being inconvenienced by life, detours, non-action. There are moments in your life when you are so geared up, so sure that you're on track with such drive and momentum that you are shocked and confused when you encounter a wall. I was feeling that today. And it was weird because once I was doing the episode, I completely do not feel any way like how I felt before. I was so drained and uninspired and just like having to push myself to do the episode today. It was like the weirdest, like energetic, like drain was like happening. And then once I was in the flow of it, it was like night and day. Like I felt energized and inspired and connected. So strange. Like, and now I'm really feel like infused. So odd. So sure that you are on track with such drive and momentum that you are shocked and confused when you encounter a wall. This unpredictability occurs outside your ability to plan, regardless of if you've done everything right in alignment with the divine. It's imperative that you change your attitude now. The temporary roadblock is not an obstacle to blast through. This is not an invitation to push harder, cancel other plans, or worry about who will win or lose. This is a stopping point to enable you to slow down and contemplate the part of the manifesting equation that you and everyone else forgets. Oh, this is interesting. Life on life's terms will override your best laid plans. Yet, as inconvenient as it may seem, this experience is an important reminder that you are a human being, not a human doing. Perhaps you're being reminded of your mortality, or that you are but a small part of a bigger universe where your destiny intersects with others. Your life may be meant to serve another purpose at this moment, and your attention meant to be directed elsewhere. Consider that this place of temporary non action is exactly meant to be for you. Perhaps it's because all you desire and have set in motion needs time to coalesce into form on the other side. Could it be that all the elements are not yet in place for its manifestation? To be for the highest good of all, patience is required now, and the wisdom that this might be a great time to take a break and contemplate gratitude. What is truly yours will never be walled off from you. Amen to that. That was beautiful. All right, guys. I love you. Have a great, what are we at? Monday. I love you guys. Thanks for joining, and I will see you in a few days for part 2. God bless you. Sending you all my love. Peace.